Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining our Q1 2025 Worship Summit Live. This event is dedicated to all those looking to learn about worship, streaming, and production for your house of worship. I'm Tess Protesto. We've got a great day lined up for you. I'm here with Paul Richards,
Hi,
Chief Revenue
everybody.
Officer here at PTZOptics. How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing great, Tess. We have been doing these awesome worship summit events for years. It's always a highlight of my year.
Me too.
This year's a little different, though. In
Yeah.
fact, I was at a men's gathering at my church last night, and we were talking about how important it is to gather and get together and have
Did you
community.
invite them to Worship Summit?
I did. I
Okay,
invited them to
good.
the worship summit. And this year, we're doing just a couple small changes about getting together. And one of those is we're partnering with a regional location for each of our worship summits. So we're going to have 4 worship summits a year. And this way we can bring a regional opportunity for those folks who can get to this year. We're going to be in New York.
Yes, it's Rensselaer, New York. If you're in that area tonight or tomorrow, you might want to join Sound Solutions. Chris Bailey is going to be speaking here in just a little bit. So, Chris is hosting that in person element for us.
Yeah, I think that's going to really bring an awesome element of collaboration and sharing to the worship summit. We've always had a summit where we have presentations from keynote speakers and experts around the world, but also a breakout Zoom meeting. So wherever you are in the United States or the world, you can join that breakout room, which is going to open in just about a half hour.
Yes.
And that's where we're going to have engineers, we're going to have experts. We've asked all the speakers to come into that room so that we can answer your specific questions. So if you have a specific technical question, we want to make sure you know that we're here. We're here to answer them, and we've got some great people there who can collaborate and you can learn from others. So that's always been an important part. But then if you have members of your team who you want to get training, right? Sometimes watching a video and joining a webinar is good, but it's not enough. You want to get hands on. And that's where these regional events, right now we're in the Northeast for this event, but we'll be hopefully finding a better spot in the Southeast, the Southwest, the Northwest of the United States as we move around and find convenient locations. And if you know any good locations, get us in touch with them so that we can help make that happen.
Please do. And if you want to join that networking room that Paul was referencing, you have to go to the lobby of the Zoom event to join that networking Q&A room. If you're watching on YouTube, hello. We want to address you as well. You can register for the Zoom event so you can interact with us one-on-one in the link in the description on YouTube. So yeah, we've got a couple of things that we wanted to address as well today. We have the schedule for you so you can check out everybody that we have coming up, all the amazing speakers that we have today. Our keynote is going to be Jake Goslin. You're going to want to check that out at 12 noon. This is all in Eastern Standard Time. So when you're looking at the schedule, note that that is Eastern Standard Time. We also have an amazing giveaway. So we're going to cue the giveaway slide. And if you want to join today's giveaway of a PTZOptics Move SE Pan Tilt Zoom camera, use that QR code right there. We will display that throughout the event today, so you have time to register. We're going to do that right around 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure you grab your phones out right now, scan that QR code, and enter today's giveaway.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
That's going to be pretty cool. Let us know where you're watching from in the chat. I see a lot of people are doing that. Shout out to George, to Russell, to Jacob, all in the Zoom chat. Thank you so much for joining us. In just a few moments here, we're going to kick off these sessions with Gordon Daly of Boxcast, talking about a really cool remote production tool that's brand new. So you're going to get a sneak peek of that today.
Yeah, really excited to hear about Gordon's new remote mix technology that allows you to remotely mix the audio. So if you need to have an expert come in to do some mixing or you want to be able to remotely manage your audio mixing, that's going to be really cool. Super excited for the presentations today. I'm going to be talking about using OBS and how to use OBS and optimize that for your production. And the reason why I'm doing that is not because I think OBS is the best streaming software, by the way, but it's because it's what you guys requested. Every worship summit, we have a survey that we give. And this is going to allow Tess and I to make the worship summit better every year. So as soon as you are done with the worship summit today, when you hit exit of the Zoom meeting and the Zoom lobby, it's going to ask you to fill out a really short 4-question survey. And one of those questions is, what topics would you like us to cover next year? And an overwhelming amount of you said, hey, we want to learn how to optimize OBS. We want to be better with OBS in our church services. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about that, meeting with a lot of people who use OBS for their worship services. And so I've got a whole presentation on that. Now, at my church, we use vmix. It's a little bit more power. You have to pay for it. It's not free. It's a little bit more powerful. There's better support. OBS does not have any support. It's open source. It's supported by the community. So just in full disclosure, at my church, we do use vmix, but there's so many of you using OBS. So I just wanted to say that we listen to these surveys. We listen to your comments. If that's what you're using, that is the type of presentations we're going to put together. Those are the types of keynote speakers we're going to look for. Mm-hmm. So please fill out that survey. Perhaps when you've listened to some of the sessions, you've collaborated in the breakout room, we want to know from you what was the most important to you so that we continue to make this summit as good as it can be.
That's right. We want to bring you the content that you're looking for. So definitely let us know. I think we're almost ready to kick things off with Gordon. Anything else that we need to cover?
That's awesome. Yeah. There's a lot of information on our website and on this Zoom event. So thank you so much for being here. This is great. Is Gordon ready?
I think Gordon's ready.
All right. So Gordon, kick it off for us. We're in a Zoom meeting, so feel free to open the chat. At 11:30, the breakout rooms are going to open. So that way we can be there for you to answer your questions throughout this whole series today. So thanks for joining, and we'll see you in a moment.
Hi, everyone. I'm so grateful to PTZOptics for inviting me to be a part of this special event. I hope you're having an incredible time so far. My name is Gordon Daly. I'm the CEO of Boxcast, and now we're about to dive into something that can truly transform your online worship experience, audio. Let's dive in. In this session, I want to take your live stream audio to the next level. Audio is such an important part of the experience. I'll never forget all those years I was taking my kids to soccer tournaments, driving in our Chevy Traverse. And as we drove down the road in that wonderful car, unfortunately, I couldn't make it every single Sunday to church, so my church service was in this car as I was driving down the road. I couldn't hear the audio of what was happening in the church service. Why? Well, part of it was because the car was loud when I was riding in it, but the other part of it was that the audio levels were just always wrong. And it was an innocent mistake, really, because the audio level for the teaching was so low because it was quiet in the room. The audio level for the worship was plenty loud enough because it was being amplified through the speakers. What was happening, and what happens at most churches, is that the audio that goes to the speakers is the same audio level that's going to the live stream. That causes a lot of problems. As a CEO of a live streaming company, we do literally millions and millions and millions of streams of church services. The majority of them really, really struggle with audio. And so today, I'm hoping to help you take it to the next level. There is a battle going on for that visitor when they first come to your website. Do you want their first impression to be their last impression? Audio is going to be a big reason why they might never come back. The Christian Index says online that the majority of visitors have already watched your church service before they came in. And you know what? If they made it to your church, it's because it was at least good enough for them to want to be a part of it. The problem is you'll never know the ones that didn't make it because the audio wasn't good enough. In this presentation, I want to go through a number of things. Number one, confront the significance of audio in your viewer experience that we started to do already. Number two, I want to discover what things might be holding your audio back. Thirdly, give some suggestions on how we're going to improve the live stream audio. And then give you a little taste of a free solution that Boxcast offers that can help you. How important is audio quality? It's easier to hear for yourself. than for me to try to do it. Let's give it a shot.
Let's make a comparison to show the differences and why this may be the case. So, first we'll start with good audio quality and poor video quality. If I would be talking to someone, telling a story or explaining something, the message of what I'm trying to communicate could still be relatively easily followed. Image quality contributes relatively little to these aspects. It's often the case that poor video quality can even be used as a stylistic device for flashbacks and other types of special sequences. So, let's switch to bad audio quality and good video quality.
Now you can hear bad audio and see great video. It's difficult to follow me, right? You probably wouldn't watch a 10-minute video with this type of audio quality. When a message is communicated through dialogue, it becomes really difficult to follow bad quality audio. Your audience will most likely drop out at some point. So, let's switch back.
Ah, much better. Now you can follow me again, right?
So it's not just a question of clarity, it's a question of actually credibility. I'm fascinated by these statistics, talking about how if you alter the audio for two different clips that are on some technical presentations at these conferences, when the video was difficult to hear, the viewers thought that the talk was worse, the speaker less intelligent, less likable, and that the research was less important. Very similarly, when this experiment of altered audio clips was presented at an NPR science fair to 99 people, the results were that with the reduced audio quality, the scientists in the research lost credibility. The same thing's going to happen at your church with those that are on stage. You don't want to have that credibility loss. Audio helps restore that confidence. So what is it? What's this problem in audio that's holding us back? A lot of problems. Let me run through them. The first one is denying that the problem exists. Hopefully, if there's one thing you can listen from this talk, it's acknowledging that this problem is real and the confidence that there's something you can do about it. Number two, having someone willing to help. Do you have enough people? Can you trust them to show up? Are your people too spread thin already? Right? Are you just asking too much from these people? Having people willing to help is a necessary piece to making this work. We all know it. Thirdly, what are the skill levels of these people that are helping you? Are they experts, right? Are they hard to train? Sometimes it's just a little too risky to put novices in charge. Is it an equipment limitation issues? You know, what people don't realize when you're streaming audio, if it's just what's amplified out the speakers, you're missing out on the drums, on the audio of the audience that's singing in the room. Those types of things. Some pianos aren't even mic'd up, so that the people that are on the live stream would never even hear those things, right? So are you accurately capturing kind of that feel of the experience that's in the room? People know when it's not there, and they'll feel disconnected when they have that. Is the space adequate in order to mix the audio? I would venture that one of the most deceptive things, even for experienced professionals, is noise bleed that can mess up their mix, right? When you're in the same room, you're feeling the bass in your chest. You're still hearing things through the earmuffs when you have those on. And you're tainting and tricking yourself to hearing the levels when they're there or not, especially given the high volume difference between when a person's just barely whispering on the microphone and everyone can hear it just fine. That level is so much lower than when the music is playing and everyone's singing in the room and everything's amplified above the singing so everyone can hear what's going on. That range of dynamic audio distance is making it impossible in your live stream to make it quiet enough when it's loud for people and loud enough when it's quiet. The playback devices are way different too than what people are hearing when they're trying to mix it in on site, right? It's very difficult on site to have the perfectly qual audio that's coming through without compression into someone's ears on site in the air and hearing it the same way that someone's actually hearing it in their car while they're running with their headphones down the highway or down the jogway, or if they're sitting at home watching their TV. What are the viewer habits? What are the devices that those viewers are most likely going to be on? That's the kind of audio speakers you're going to want to be hearing when you're mixing with, right? If you want to replicate that same experience. So some people are assuming that there's a lot of expense that needs to be done in order to solve these problems, but I would like to venture to this crowd to hear, what if there was a free tool? And that's what we've done at Boxcast. We've fixed all those problems in one fell swoop by tackling this problem with a free tool called Remote Mix. So if you go over to remotemix.com, you'll find it's free for everyone to use. It's easy enough for any skill level. It doesn't even require additional equipment costs because it works with almost every digital audio mixer that's out there. It's safe to use with your existing front of house system because you can't mess it up. You can protect it. And although it does require a dedicated person to do the mix separate from the venue, they can be located either down the hall where it's quiet or anywhere else in the world. What's neat about it is they can all do this in real time. So that the live stream that you've got going, regardless of who you're streaming with, can be done perfectly with this free tool. So, okay, how does this work? Here's an SQ. This is an example mixer that we work with. It can be connected either with a Boxcast Spark or on any PC or Mac computer with this remote mix agent installed on it. That's on your network, so it has to be on the same network to communicate to these things through Ethernet or Wi-Fi, ideally Ethernet, right? Those devices then talk to the Boxcast servers, which then can allow a web browser to load up anywhere in the world, access to control the live stream elements of that mix in real time. So now I'll give you a little bit of a brief demo. Okay, so we're in the remotemix.com dashboard, and you'll see that it shows us how the data flows from our mixer through an agent on a Boxcast Spark or a remote mix agent on software on a PC or a Mac, connecting us to the browser. Let's go ahead and create our connection so you can see how that works. We're going to now just pick which agent we have. I happen to know that this is connected to a Behringer wing, and so I'm going to now pick from our list of which vendors to choose. I know that the Behringer wing is a Behringer product. I know that it's the wing, and I'll have it search my network, and boom, it finds it right away, which is really cool. I'll hit select, connect, give it a name. And now we decide whether this is this audio console is only for streaming, or is it also used for front of house? Because if it's used for front of house, we're going to want to restrict what people are able to do. Let's just assume it's only for mixing to start with to make this easier for us. We'll create the connection. And then bam, we're in as if we're in front of the console itself. You'll notice right from the start, all of the channels that are on your mixer show up with the color, names, all that information, as well as what the metering information is and the levels that they're at. So let me first point your attention into the upper left-hand corner. What we're showing are the channels. Now we're also going to show the buses. We can also create virtual groups or like your own DCAs, as well as access to the mains. It's weird. The wing is complicated. It has 4 different levels of mains, but let's keep this demo really simple and just focus on how these channels then are represented for what the mix target is. So we've got all the different sends on fader options that we can configure for the different live stream mixes. So if you had a live stream mix on mix bus 1 or 2, you could just edit that one thing. I happen to know that main 1 is what's feeding the output of this. So let's go focus our channel's energy on main 1. So that now as I go and change these things, what you'll notice is that the audio changes on the device. But here's the thing, I'm on my browser. I can't hear the audio, wait a minute, there's a little audio icon up. Let's see what happens when I press the unmute the audio button. Now you're hearing the audio. It's in the event itself. Okay, great. Wouldn't it be great if I could preview what's actually happening? We also have the ability to show a video preview too. And in this case, I'm just showing you the actual unit itself. So you'll notice that when I change any of these volume levels, that on the screen in real time, all those are changing with it. Now I don't want to jack this up too high because it's going to be too loud for you. In fact, let's do a little test. Let's go ahead and mute all the drums real quick so that you can hear for yourself. All those drums now disappear from the audio, right? This is great. What we're demonstrating here is just as if I'm in front of this device. I'm controlling it as if I'm there. This is perfect because now I can allow someone that can be anywhere in the world just have access to just their live stream bus in order to make all the perfect audio level changes and tweaks that are necessary for the broadcast to sound great. So just to be clear, this video would be your live stream. It doesn't have to be, we're just aiming it at the mixer so you can see what's going on and we can see this happening. But in a real life, you're probably going to want to see what's happening on stage or seeing a real-time preview of what your live stream is, what's happening in your live stream in order to help you anticipate the changes of levels or mutes that you want to make. Some people are finding that it's even better to use Remote Mix to show a video feed of the multi-view of their video mixing platform. Then you can see all of the different angles and even get more context as a person is trying to mix the audio. Maybe what's the next shot that they're going to put into the live stream so that you can even get a little bit of a head start in knowing how you want that audio to match what they're doing. Next, let's talk about virtual groups. Virtual groups are a great way to keep things simple for your volunteers. You've probably got 50, 20, maybe 100 people that are watching your live stream from afar, and every one of those people care about having good audio quality. I bet you one of them will help volunteer your tech team to be a remote audio mixer for your team. But you want to make it super approachable for them to make it so that they can be successful. That's what's great about virtual groups. I can create just like an unlimited number of DCAs to control the drums, for example. So let's just make a bunch of drums and call them drums. Add group. And what you'll see now is I've just got a subset of information I want to present to somebody to do mixing. And I even got my own little DCA for it too. Because what I can do now is if I have all my vocals, I know that vocals are on channels male and female. Look, I have two vocals here. And I'm going to make, I can now see all my groups and I have access to my drums, my vocals, all in one spot. Really easy for the customer to be able to do this themselves, even if they're not experienced. Now back to our presentation. Instead of hearing from me, I thought it'd be great for you to hear from someone who's using Remote Mix to hear what their experience has been like. Here's Donald Raymond from Heatherwood First Baptist Church.
Yeah, so Remote Mix, I was excited about it when I heard it. A little bit of hesitation because, what is it? How's it going to work? Am I going to be able to figure out how to use it? I consider myself pretty tech savvy, but you just never know until you get your hands on it. And I got to say, it was, I think I had my first connection, started in less than a minute. I clicked on the Remote Mix option, followed the link from the email, logged in, created the connection, selected my board. And, I made 2 connections right away. One was just full access and then one was restricted access. And it was awesome. It felt like I was using either the Behringer Wing. We have a Wing, so the Behringer Wing edit app or just standing in front of the board, really just interacting with it. So it was really great. It was really easy, very, very low friction, super easy, super intuitive, and it just really, it immediately started to open my eyes to what was potentially going to be possible using this versus just, a companion app.
All right, before you go, I want to just coach you on a few things to think about when you're operating the live stream mix itself. More important to what you hear sometimes is watching what the meters are telling you. So beyond the peaks that you're finding that the audio is hitting at, tune in very carefully to what the LUFS meter or the loudness factor of it is. That's one of the things that we offer with Boxcast is the ability to see what the LUFS audio or RMS value of the audio is so that you can get a better sense for what the levels need to be in order for it to be the appropriate loudness for the mix. You don't want the audio to sound sterile, so give it a little bit of ambiance and reverb maybe to simulate a live feel. Without it, they're going to feel like they're in a room that has no walls or boundaries, which is never the case. That's what we mean by saying sterile. So a good point of reference would be to kind of make it sound maybe about half as much reverb as might be in the room that you might hear itself. Be really, really good about keeping the labels properly set on the audio mixer, because then you'll be able to see them with the live stream mix, because most churches are changing those audio inputs on a regular basis. Sometimes by accident, not even on purpose, or people not knowing what the other people are doing. It's really important to keep those updated. And the other thing is, if you don't have a default EQ, if you don't have an EQ set or don't know what to set for a certain instrument or input device, just pick the default one that the mixer allows you to do. Don't forget to leverage compression, both selectively on the channels that you need to, especially on the high dynamic range ones like drums or vocals, but also on the overall mix, adding a little bit of careful, maybe a high threshold with a high kickback factor on it to make it so that you can keep that from, in the end, keep everything within safe bounds. And then bumping up the spoken channels is really an important factor. It's tricky and it's deceptive, even for the best audio mixers, to have those spoken channels be loud enough. Don't take the chance of having them not be loud enough by making sure that those audio levels are matching that acceptable range you really want for the spoken text. And with that, that's all I have for you today. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thanks to the PTZOptics crew for letting me be a part of this event. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Gordon and team. What a cool tool. Can't wait to maybe see that running alongside PTZOptics Hive Studio. It seems like that would be a nice little pairing there. So yeah, thank you so much, Gordon from Boxcast. Up next, we have Chris Bailey of Sound Solutions. Chris is going to be talking about putting together a quality production on a shoestring budget. So for those houses of worships that are working on a budget, like so many of them are, this is going to be a great topic for you. So let me invite Chris on in just a moment here. Chris, let me know if you can hear me. Just getting Chris on here. I see he's in the Zoom room. Yeah.
That's going to be really nice in addition to PTZOptics Hive, which will allow you to control the PTZ chemistry anywhere in the world. I have time to show off a little bit today. I'm sure we'll be playing with that today as well. If anyone's interested in playing with the cameras with Hive, I can send you access to that. It's kind of interesting. I think Chris is just taking a minute here to get in, so we'll give him a second. It looks like the networking room is going to open up in just.
Why don't we cue Steven? Do you want to cue Steven and then Chris can go during Steven's time? Because Steven's ready. Steven's. Yeah. Okay. The schedule. Okay. I'm just not sure if he's having technical difficulties or something. I've chatted Chris.
Mike, maybe I can just touch the real quickly, and I can just show something on my screen while we press. Is that okay with you, Mike? You want to ask? I don't think I can hear you.
Okay. Mike, let's go to Paul, who's going to demo something while we wait for Chris.
All right. So I want to show my screen really quickly while we're waiting for Chris. He'll be here in a second. I want to show my screen quickly because with remote mix, and I'm going to be talking about OBS in a moment. So my head is in OBS world. But if I could show my screen here, this is our studio and what we're working on right now. And I can actually, this is a little bit like OBS, a little bit like vmix. It's called PTZOptics Hive. And it allows me to click a share button and I can actually share access with anyone here today. So if you're interested in controlling the cameras in our studio, just send me an email at paul@ptzoptics.com. This would allow you, for example, to have a volunteer operate the cameras at your church without having to actually come to church on Sunday. So if, you're remote, right, and you're not able to make it, and you're volunteering to operate the cameras, you can actually do this all remotely, right in a web browser. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I just wanted to kind of quickly show this since we're waiting for Chris. And it ties in, I think, a lot with remote mix in the sense of we're starting to get some technology that's allowing us to remotely do things. So clicking a share button, allowing someone to just copy a link, send it to your team. And it's really quite interesting. If there's anybody who wants to jump in, I'll demonstrate this.
Chris is here now.
Chris is ready?
I'm here, sorry.
All right, so we'll let Chris.
Sorry.
Chris is ready. I'll jump. I'm going to be available to talk. Hey, Chris.
Hey, how you doing, guys? Can you
no
hear me all
levels
right?
From you, Chris.
No levels from me. Let's
Can
just
you hear
see
him,
what's
Mike?
going on here.
Okay, we can't hear
Yeah,
him, but that's okay. All right,
All right,
take it away,
take
Chris.
it away.
you can hear me, but they can hear. You guys can hear me. Thumbs up if you can hear me out, and everybody else. Yes, we can hear you. Perfect. So hi, I'm Chris Bailey with Sound Solutions, and we are actually setting up for our in-person worship summit here in upstate New York. So lots going on. We are here at Emmanuel Church in Rensselaer. That's a Dutch name. So, but really happy to be a part of the virtual summit from PTZOptics. Thanks to Paul and Tess for this opportunity. And we've been, in business for about 25 years, helping churches, big and small, get set up with quality AV, whether they have a big budget or a small budget. And a lot of times, big churches, you assume they might have a big budget. That's not always the case. And some small churches have small budget or a big budget. So we don't find that the size of the church definitely is not an indication of what's going on, but we definitely want to address the issues of how can I get quality AV with relatively small budget. So again, want to make sure everybody's tracking. I've got some chats here on the side just to make sure we're all good. I'm going to share a slide here just so we can get on the same page with some stuff. And if everybody can see that, we're all going to just move around again. It's just making sure everybody's here for the breakout session. We are in Edison country, so this is Schenectady area where Thomas Edison started his business, and still going strong here. He's one of my favorite guys because he was often frustrated. So when we start talking about putting together a production, putting together, a budget, what are the questions we're asked? And a lot of times it's frustrating to start someplace. So one of my favorite quotes from Edison is, to invent, you need a good imagination and a lot of junk. I have not failed. I just found 10,000 ways it won't work. He was actually talking about the light bulb when he said that. And our greatest weakness lies in giving up. Certain ways to succeed is always try one more time. Great quotes from a guy just down the street here. And we just try to, work with our churches to figure out what is the best way to get, your production up and running without breaking the bank. So this might be your sound system in your church. This is actually something we came across recently. Cassette player, Radio Shack mixer. I, for one, cried when Radio Shack went out of business. Anybody else? It was a sad day. Yes, thank you, Casey there. Yeah, we bought a lot of stuff from Radio Shack. and they are now gone by the wayside. So this is actually the church that I'm in right now. This is Emmanuel Church here in Rensselaer. We just put this system in. And they've got a Behringer X32, not an expensive board by any means, but it does the trick. And even you'll see some Phoenix Pro RF receivers. We'll get to those in a second, but not a huge, front of house by any means. The Sanctuary holds about 350, 360. Again, this is just brand new. They've been here less than a year. So when we talk about, quality audio video, we have to really talk about, budgets and what you have to work with. You just can't say we have no money. Really can't do a lot with that. So when you say we're trying to put together live stream, live production, audio, video, lighting, I mean, all of this takes money, takes planning. And so what we want to address is, start with a budget, a yearly kind of plan, a budget to say, can we afford X, Y, and Z, and what can we afford? You also want to budget for repairs for those. Again, computers, equipment that will break. What is it going to cost to fix these things? If they are fixable. A lot of this is disposal technology that we live in. If it breaks, we throw it away, and that's kind of sad. But we want to also work in reality. The church down the street might have a line array and huge, system that might not fit for your church. So we wanted to address that to say, what exactly do you need? What's going to fit for your church and for your budget? We do at all times recommend consulting with professionals. It can get really just dicey when you start looking at everything, and there's a lot of stuff on the market now. There's a lot of knockoff stuff. There's a lot of brands that just are really poor quality. We want to steer you in the right direction to good quality equipment. So at all times, try to find somebody that knows what they're doing as a professional that can come in, maybe as a free consultation to you. We look at, why we do what we do to say, we want to live stream. Well, why do you want to live stream, and what's your goal for that? We want to, have lighting. Well, is the lighting for production, or is the lighting for aesthetics? So kind of dig in, ask those questions. And certainly set yourself for some goals. Say, we want to be here in 3 years, 5 years, and try to meet those goals with your team and your budget. Setting that up is just going to set you up for a good start. So just with all that information, want to make sure everybody's kind of on the same page. I could talk for hours. This is interactive a little bit. Want to make sure that everybody has questions. I can see some stuff here. Anybody want to chime in on where you're at with your own church or looking to get some new gear? I don't know if I've got control over this. Want to make sure that I think everybody is either just looking down at some of the chats. We're all on the same page. I can keep kind of going on with some more information here. Again, we're not cookie cutter. We're not, all talking about the same thing. You could have a church of 100 people. You could have a church of 1,000 people. These things all ring true. Set yourself a budget. Set yourself up, hopefully with a professional, whether that's somebody in person It could be Sweetwater's people. They've got a whole worship division as well. Again, I'm not trying to give, veto to anybody one specific place, but there's a lot of good online professionals that you can get help from, and we're here as well to help you. So you can call us whether we're in your neighborhood or not. Let me just kind of continue on with a few things here. And if anybody has questions, I will definitely answer those in the chat section or in person here. But so you guys got all this kind of information on how to really set your initial parameters up for meeting a small budget for AV. And want to talk kind of practicality. Anybody know what a Stream Deck is? Have you used one before? Have you seen them? Getting some shaking of your heads. Yes. These are really great little tools. $150 to $200. You can get them online. Elgato makes them, and they kind of have, during COVID especially, came out with a lot of new features, and they've really revolutionized a way we do things, because it is a control surface for anything that lives on your network, which is everything, basically. So if you look at some of these, there's some, smaller ones, larger ones. The newer ones have a cool strip and some knobs. They're all mappable, and all of them have functions that can be layered. The cool thing is people are writing these widgets and profiles for them. So PTZOptics has a profile for their cameras. They also sell a really nice PTZ Joy controller. Don't want to knock their really good stuff and good engineering from that. But let's say you can't afford a $900 controller. This is a really great solution. Again, you can also use an Xbox controller as well for your camera. That's pretty cool. And Paul's got some write-ups about that. But the Stream Decks can control everything: your lights, your sound, your video. It's as if another person, you had another computer sitting next to you, and you were using it as a secondary operation. So it saves you money for additional computer, saves you money for additional controller. So definitely, if you know about the Stream Decks, get on top of that. It'll really help you out. Another way that I don't know why there was a line through on my slides here. We talk about audio consoles, and we think of as big production boards, and certainly there's value to a big production console with moving faders, etc. There are a lot of consoles. I say consoles. We have a lot of mixers out there without moving faders. You can see a bunch of them here. Allen Heath has a bunch. Behringer, Midas have a bunch. Soundcraft has some. They are faderless consoles, basically the brains without moving faders. And if you're on an analog board, you want to move to a digital console, this is a really nice in between, saving you thousands of dollars. They just give you the brains inside of these things with a few extra, could be a touchscreen here and there. And then you can use something like Mixing Station. Mixing Station's a free app. You pay for a pro level, but it's a one-time payment of maybe $10. And you get virtual faders on a surface. So you can use an iPad, a computer, even a smaller, virtual mixer. Really great tool, saving you a lot of time, saving you a lot of money on the larger consoles. You can use 20 channels. You can still get your faders, your control, but this is all done without an actual surface. So if any of you have that or have run into that, again, this is a really great way to cut costs without cutting quality. You're just taking, these consoles, these boards without faders, and having a control surface to work on. So again, lots of saves space, saves money as well. Another great tool out there for production are active speakers, and depending on what you have in your church, or if you're looking to upgrade, active technology in speakers has come a long way, from active line arrays to standalone speakers. QSE just released this guy, and we have some pole stands, column stands with subwoofers. These are like 1,400 watts, I'm sorry, per speaker. So lots of power, lots of great sound coming out of them. RCF's got them, a whole bunch of others. So you can actually set up a really nice, system with some active speakers, saving you money on amplification, et cetera, et cetera. A great way to really budget for space, and keeps it kind of, clean looking and sounding really good. Paul's got his own breakout session with OBS, and talking all about that. Again, video production with live stream has come a long way in the past few years. Certainly two leading software are vmix and OBS. OBS is free. And again, as Paul mentioned earlier, it is a collaborative effort. There is no tech support, but it is something that is always being worked on and updated. vmix has been around for a while, and they charge $60 a year for their basic 4-input edition. You jump up to $350 after that for their full edition. That's per year. You don't have to upgrade if you don't want to, but if you want to get those updates after a year, you do have to pay for it. So it's not a subscription. It's a one-time license. Both are great ways to get your video in and out of your sanctuary on a, again, very relatively low cost or free option. So you can see Paul, those guys, for more information on the OBS side. vmix as well has some great tutorials online. You can download a free trial of vmix for 60 days and play around with it. It works with NDI options. It works with all sorts of video codecs. Can stream to 3 things at once. So unlike OBS, where you have to choose one, streaming option, vmix has 3 discrete streaming sources. So we can choose Facebook, Vimeo, YouTube, and we'll cover all of those within one. I'm going to stop here just to check in. OBS can multi-stream. Thank you for that. Yeah, there's been updates on that. You can use something like Restream. If you've heard of Restream, that's another program where you can multicast out. Trying to go back. Wirecast is very good. Again, let me just kind of listen up to some of the vmix configured 5 streams. Yes. I don't know why you would stream to 5 places at once, but that's a lot. Let me just double check all of these questions here. One of the challenges, yes, USB feed from a Wing to a Mac. The Wing is a new console that came out, and they just did a new one with a rack version of Behringer's Wing. Again, different boards have different digital IOs going back and forth. Behringer still is a little bit tricky. They've released some new USB codecs and stuff like that. So make sure you've downloaded the latest. I also know that they're supporting Windows primarily. The Apple side is getting better, but it's not great. And so if you're having issues with live streaming and with your DAWs with Behringer, you might consider using a PC. Macs are awesome for a lot of things, and PCs are great for a lot of things. I'm not telling you which one to do, but I am telling you that for live streaming and for digital IOs back and forth, that PCs have a little more advantage. They're working on those a little bit more. So just wanted to kind of mention that. Not that I can steer you any way which way, but in the PC world, we have a little more flexibility. A Resi, yes, there's a whole thing on. I mean, Resi's a great solution for live streaming and also for multi-campus. If you have multiple churches and you want to connect them together, their solutions are pretty pricey, but they do it very, very well. So if you're wrestling with multi-site or getting on live stream that you have a bad service, whether your ISP provider's not giving you the right stuff, Resi helps you navigate that. And it's a pretty good system to use. Again, we're trying to consolidate and say, how can we save money? And doing that really well. Mike just wrote, best practice getting audio from your soundboard to your live stream. So again, we're talking about a lot of these solutions. If you have an analog console, you're going to have to use an ADD converter. So there's a lot of them out there. Personas has small ones, and so does Focusrite has some small boxes. So you're looking to get an analog signal, convert that to digital, send that USB to your computer. Same thing with video. If you don't have a digital video solution, you want to basically send your HDMI source as a capture and capture that as a video codec. So Elgato's got stuff like that. Blackmagic, a whole bunch of them. But if you have a digital console, you should be able to do this with the digital connection with a USB card or USB connection. Sometimes they don't always work well, and you have to use an ADD converter no matter what. But you've got Allen and Heath, I see. Their USB out should be able to route really well, and you should be able to download the drivers from their website if you have a PC and or Mac. So again, Midas, same way. USB, make sure you're up to date on your Windows. Make sure you're up to date with the driver. So always go to Behringer, Midas.com, Allen Heath, and make sure you're downloading the latest in the drivers. They keep in touch with the OS people, with Apple and with Windows. They make sure that we're on the same page. If you're having issues with that, it is usually the first thing we tell people to make sure you're updated. Does that make sense, everybody? Yeah, the analog stuff. Dante, somebody's asking about Dante. We'll get into Dante a little bit later, which is another way of getting audio in and out as well. So just to move on and getting this stuff together here. So let me stream my software. Where was I? I was back to this. All right, so we talked about a little bit about some free live streaming options or some low-cost options for live streaming. And the next one, we're going to talk about some solutions. So I don't know if you're a lot of old school people where this was your video options in the day with an overhead projector. We're now at overhead projectors overhead with lasers. So laser projectors have come down way in price. It used to be something that was unaffordable, and now they're at the price where lamp-based are now. So if you're using projection in your sanctuary and you're running into issues where you're replacing the lamps, so the lamps are dying, lasers are definitely the way to go. They'll run for 60 to 70,000 hours, and it's one of those great options that you'll never have to clean out or to replace a lamp. Epson makes them, Aki makes them, Panasonic makes them. There's a lot of great brands out there for laser solutions. So 6,000, lumen projector is going to run you, probably, $2,300, $2,500, and easily, in the affordable range for projection. For video, this is where we used to be decades ago. This was the standard for about 50 years until the new HD revolution. We now have our beautiful PTZOptics Move 4K, which I think is being raffled off as a giveaway, or the SE version. But this will do 4K video and an AV over IP solution. So just a single Cat 6 to your camera will give you audio, video, ins and outs, control, power over one cable. Very economical solution. Again, these are, retailing for about $2 or so, but some of the other models, underneath that. And for your mixers, you might have, using this, we talked about the death of Radio Shack earlier, that I'm still mourning. This was such a great little mixer. 3 channels, yeah. So we're now up to 128 channel mixers. This is the new D-Live version from Alan Heath, and you don't have to go this crazy, but certainly there are solutions within the digital mixer range that can give you a ton of in, ton of outs. So just trying to, get you an idea, an overview of kind of where, mixers, video production have come, and any questions kind of on that. Rest in peace, Radio Shack. Thank you very much. SDI, NDI. So we'll get into SDI, NDI a little bit as a really great economical solution. So you're not running a ton of wires. And when we talk about video production, it's probably the most costly part of a church production. There's a lot that goes into it as far as cameras, switchers, controllers, computers. Audio, I think, has come down so far in price, is now probably the lowest cost in church production. The next would be probably lighting. If you started to get into a situation where you want DMX control and some movers, and by far video production has far exceeded that, even though seems to be leveling out in pricing wise. But you can go crazy with video. We try to scale things down and say, what do you need? What are your needs for your church? What can we budget, and what can we use for expansion later on? So certainly NDI changes the game, where we don't have to run a ton of cables. It's all on the network, and that makes it a lot more affordable. NDI, AV over IP, Dante, these are all things that are network pathways for audio and video to go through. It does mean your network has to be pretty beefy, and we'll get into that in a little bit more. But if you have a good network that's reliable with some good switches, you can run your whole AV system on that, and save you a lot of time and a lot of cabling. Certainly Cat 6 is you want to start with those. Cat 6 and 6A, 5 and 5E are kind of going by the wayside, so make sure you start with good cabling. Yeah, answers to the lengths. So 325 feet, 100 meters. You want to make sure you're not exceeding those on your cat runs. Just following some of the chats here. Trying to get to everybody here. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. Blackmagic has a lot of great solutions. Again, it's one of those where you start basic and the prices go up from there. So again, Blackmagic has a lot of great things out there, and it is certainly used in the pro industry a lot. Your churches might not be in the pro video industry right there. So if you start in Blackmagic, though, I recommend staying within their framework. But it is definitely some good stuff. We're moving on, I guess, to the next one. If you have any comments, please message me and we'll get to that. But thank you guys so much for joining us within this breakout group.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris. I love seeing the little walk down memory lane with that tech. That was pretty fun. So really fun presentation there. And again, if you were interested in joining in person, you can join Chris tonight and tomorrow in New York. Sound Productions is hosting the in-person element of our event this time. So it's in Rensselaer, New York at Emmanuel Church. I will link to where you can sign up for that if you are in the area and want to attend. So thank you so much, Chris. We're now moving on to our keynote session with Jake Goslin of Churchfront, our keynote speaker. So let's go ahead and cue that, Michael. And yeah, we'll see you soon.
Hello, my name's Jake Goslin. I'm so excited to be here at Worship Summit Live, and I'm excited to dive into this session that I'm calling Disruptive Church Production. So let me go ahead and pull up my slides for you here. And a few days ago, I was working here in my office. This is a picture of my office in the stand-up desk I use, which is like right over here to my right. And I all of a sudden started to feel this like low rumble that was like shaking the building, and it kind of felt like thunder that just kept going on and on. It was sort of like the if you're, for your sound guys out there, maybe like a 80 hertz subwoofer frequency that was just vibrating. And I was like, what's going on here? Was there an explosion somewhere? Is there a plane that's about to crash into me? I was a little freaked out, but it only happened for a few moments that I was freaked out, because I remembered this is what was happening. So I am located here on the Space Coast of Florida, and we're called the Space Coast because we have rocket launches that are happening on a regular basis, and it's pretty cool. You can see here the red arrow is where I am in Melbourne, Florida, and I'm about like a 30-minute drive south of Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. So there are rockets that are launching from there almost on a daily basis now. It happens all the time. It still catches me off guard, though, every time I feel like that low rumble that happens. It's a little bit freaky, but it's pretty cool because our family, I love taking our kids to the beach, and we can watch these rocket launches and get a great view of them. This is a view of the Falcon Heavy launch we watched a couple months ago, and then the boosters actually land back on land, and then you hear the sonic boom, and it just sounds incredible, and it's like very inspiring. So SpaceX, they're a pretty incredible company. This is a photo of the Falcon 1 back in 2006. And it's crazy the journey they've been on developing these rockets, because they're the ones launching most of the rockets these days that we hear at the Space Force Base in Cape Canaveral. So this is Falcon 1. It's a humble little rocket, and this was way back in 2006, almost 20 years ago. And now in 2024, just last year, they landed the Starship booster, and they've been launching this huge ship a few times. I think they've successfully caught it as of the time of this recording one time, and it's super impressive to see the innovation that has happened in the space industry because of SpaceX and what they've done. You can say they've significantly disrupted the space industry. Before SpaceX, a typical rocket launch to get people and stuff up into space, you'd be looking at $1.5 billion per launch, or $55,000 per kilogram to launch things up into space. And now with SpaceX, you're looking at about $62 million per launch and $2,700 per kilogram. So they really revolutionized it. They brought the costs down. I think this is going to just massively transform the world of technology moving forward, because they're launching all these satellites into space, and we have new services like Starlink for having internet connection from these satellites that are in low Earth orbit. I think it's just, we haven't even scratched the surface of how that much this is going to impact the way we interact with technology because of the innovations here in space. So how did SpaceX, though, drive the cost of rocketry down so low? It's still $62 million is a lot, but it's a lot cheaper than $1.5 billion, because now it's in a range where companies can justify making this expense to send more satellites to improve their products and services. So how did they do it? They did it through first principles thinking. So this is the key. This is how you disrupt an industry, is through first principles thinking. First principles thinking breaks down a problem to its fundamental truths, and it rebuilds it from the ground up. So the SpaceX objective and goal is like, how do we get people and stuff to space without spending, billions of dollars? And they did this a few ways, and they broke things down to first principles, and they were able to achieve these things. So first, they were able to start reusing rockets. This is a huge way for them to be able to save a ton of money on the rockets that were being launched up into space. Because imagine you have like a commercial airline, like the planes that we're using for domestic flights or international flights. Imagine you could only use those things one time. That would be a very expensive flight, because the planes themselves, I think it's like $100 million or something like that for one of these larger commercial passenger planes. And if you can only use it like $100 million for one time for $100 million plane, then the ticket price of that trip is going to be a lot. So the same kind of thing goes for the space shuttle and all the rockets that came before SpaceX. When you can only use it once, it's going to be very cost prohibitive. But if you start reusing it, that can really bring the cost of these trips down. In-house manufacturing. So a lot of the space industry has manufacturing happen at various suppliers and manufacturers, and then it kind of gets brought together to be assembled, where SpaceX like, hey, let's just do everything in-house. It's going to be harder to build the systems to do that, but once we figure it out, it's really going to bring our costs down to just build everything in-house. Simplicity and design. I love this photo of the evolution of the SpaceX engine, the Raptor engine. Raptor 1, it's bigger, it's more complicated, and then Raptor 3 is super clean and efficient looking, and is probably more powerful than even Raptor 1. SpaceX also has a private sector mindset, so they're not really dealing with like the bureaucratic mindset that's common in a lot of in the government and in all these like large kind of government contractor companies that are more the legacy companies in the industry. SpaceX is much more nimble and lean because they're a younger company, a smaller company, and they can get things done faster and more quickly. I was going to say quaster. That's not a word, right? So we must challenge our assumptions on what it takes to achieve excellence, because just like in the space world, there were certain assumptions about what it takes to run an aerospace company that builds rockets and how to achieve excellence with that. But SpaceX challenged all those assumptions with first principles thinking. And I think we can do the same when it comes to our AVL ministries, a production ministry, our worship ministry. You do not need a multi-6 or 7-figure budget to achieve production quality that is excellent, impactful, and furthers your church mission. You can disrupt your worship production with first principles thinking. So what are these first principles of AVL for churches? Well, that's what I want to spend some time going over today in this presentation with you, is let's break down the elements of AVL: audio, video, lighting, broadcast, our team. Let's just break it down to first principles to really focus on what matters to get you the best results possible, especially if your church is constrained when it comes to budget. I know a lot of us have those budget constraints that we've been working in, and sometimes it can be disappointing. It can be a little bit defeating when we can't just throw a ton of capital at a problem to achieve better audio and video and lighting results for our church. So let's start with audio. What are the first principles of audio? Well, the first principles, it really comes down to asking these questions, what's the actual objective here? With audio, the objective is, how do you capture, process, mix, and amplify sound so that the congregation can hear and experience that in a way that's clear and consistent, whether they're in the room or whether they're online. So the first thing I like to do in breaking down the first principles of audio is assess the natural acoustics of the room. This often gets forgotten in a lot of church environments where we're like, oh, we don't have good sound. Let's throw a new mixing console at the solution. I know I've made that mistake before, without even considering what are the acoustical challenges that you're dealing with in the space. And when we talk about acoustics in the space, we're talking about how does the sound energy interact with the walls and the ceilings and the other surfaces that are in the space. Are those surfaces reflecting the energy so that they're really causing a lot of reverb and echo or slap back? That can cause a lot of headaches that can't really be solved by certain solutions people might throw at it, whether it's a new microphone or mixing consoles or new speakers. You really want to assess the acoustics of the room. And the goal with the acoustics of your room is try to get that natural reverb time down to, I'd say, 2 seconds or less. 3 seconds or less is still, it's doable. It can be a really nice live sounding room, especially if you have a blend of worship, like maybe you have a choir in more traditional worship, but then you have some contemporary worship. With contemporary worship, with a full band playing, you want to have more control over your mix, and you want to get the acoustics of the room dialed in. The next really important thing is microphone placement, right? So I always like to give this illustration about microphone placement. How does this sound right now? Probably not very good because my microphone was not in the right place. Microphones need to be placed in the right spot, whether it's a $100 microphone or a $2,000 microphone. I would much rather use a $100 microphone that is placed properly over a $2,000 microphone that is not placed properly. So these are very basic fundamental things. You want to coach your vocalists, your pastor who's wearing a headset microphone or holding a handheld microphone. Really coach them on the fundamentals of placement. So a microphone should only be a few inches or inch or so away from the subject who's speaking into the microphones, or very close to whatever instrument you're trying to capture with it. If you're miking a drum set, there are certain techniques that come into properly miking that drum set to get a great sound. So much of the quality of our sound happens with capturing that quality signal in tone at the source. The next step is going to be gain, EQ, and compression. So once that sound is captured, how is that sound being amplified at the preamplifier level before the audio goes into your mixing console? So sometimes a preamplifier can be on a stage box. That's where you plug your mic in if you have a digital stage box, or maybe it goes into an analog snake and then hits the preamp on your mixing console. It can be there as well. The gain knob is a very important one. You want to have a sufficient amount of gain on the console. You don't want it to clip and cause distortion, and you don't want it too low, or else you're going to have to turn up a bunch of signals and boosts down the line, and that's going to create a lot of a higher noise floor. It's going to cause a lot of issues with your mix. So make sure you have a good, solid signal of gain coming into the console. Up next is going to be EQ, or equalization. These are things like the treble in the bass, or the low frequencies and the high frequencies. Understanding the concepts of, on a vocal microphone, what are some of the usual trouble frequencies. For me, if it's a basic speaking microphone like this one I have here, I have a high pass filter that cuts out a lot of the low frequencies from 100 and below, and then I have a little bit of a cut at about 500 hertz to kind of take out some of the mid boxiness that I don't like in speaking microphones. And it sounds pretty good, especially with a mic like this. This is a nice Shure SM7B. It's great for like podcasting and doing presentations like this and having voiceovers. So not a whole lot of work I need to do to that microphone if the gain is right and I have a little bit of EQ. But then I also have compression. Compression's really good to level out my voice. So right now I have a compressor on my mixing console here that is going to squash down my audio levels when I talk loud, and it's going to help kind of boost it when I'm talking quiet, so you'll end up with a more consistent sound. So gain, EQ, and compression, these are like the three most important parts of processing audio on your mixing console. There's other effects out there you can dive into, but don't overcomplicate it with those other effects until you've really mastered the fundamentals of gain, EQ, and compression. And you'll find these settings on a $1,000 mixing console or a $100,000 mixing console. The same concepts apply. Speaker placement and tuning. So then once the audio signal has been mixed at your console, you're going to send that signal to the speakers that are then going to amplify the audio and project them into the room. And you want to make sure your speakers and your amplifiers are set up properly. A lot of churches out there, I've seen it happen where the main output fader on their console is set way down low because for some reason the amplifier input settings are cranked all the way up. So if you start bringing your main fader up, you're going to have a bunch of feedback. It's going to be signal overload. It's going to be a mess. I know a lot of churches could just solve a lot of headache by just go to your amplifiers and just turn them down a little bit so you're not like overloading the signal that's going to be going to your PA system. And it's going to allow you to properly gain stage all your microphones and your other inputs before you send them out. And there's more, involved tuning you can do of a PA system. And tuning a PA system means you're taking into account the natural reverberations of the room. You have some sort of reference mic in the room when you tune it. And we have like a audio system tuner when we install new PA systems where he uses his reference mics to take measurements of audio levels at different frequencies. And then at the amplifier or processor level, he can actually add some EQ there before the audio is sent to the speakers. So then you're not really worried about adding a bunch of extra EQ to the master output on your mixing console because it's already applied to the amps, and the amps and speakers are tuned to the room. You can just send a nice flat, balanced mix from your mixing console, and it's going to translate really nicely to your room, and it'll translate even better to your online stream as well. So this is something that happens quite regularly when we go to consult churches on the audio side of things. We go into a church and we are go to their console. And this is Adam on our team who goes to a church, goes to a console, and he basically like spends a few minutes there, like dialing in a few things, and then everybody watching him is like, "Oh my gosh, what'd you do? It sounds amazing." And then all he does is he turns around and tells them like, "Oh, I just cleared the scene file. Like it's just all reset, right?" And it just sounds incredible. Because what happens in a lot of churches is there's a lot of questionable decisions, usually just made out of not having the full education you need to understand gain, EQ, and compression. And it kind of becomes a Band-Aid over a Band-Aid over a Band-Aid to the point where like the sound just sounds horrible, right? And if you just reset the console, you'll probably have a lot better results. If you go back to first principles of audio mixing and you can rebuild that mix using the right gain, EQ, compression, take into account things like microphone placement and capture, PA system tuning and such, that's really important. And you can get a really high quality sound even out of a low budget system when you do these things properly. The next area of AVL that we can disrupt is lighting. So lighting, the goal of it is how to illuminate the stage and congregation for to focus attention and creatively engage the heart. So we want to just make sure subjects are well lit on stage, and that's going to translate really well, not just in person, but also for your cameras and for your live stream. So for lighting, we first want to talk about front lights, right? Do we have adequate front lighting on the stage? I have adequate front lighting right now for me in this room in the studio, and that allows the camera that I'm using, which is a smaller sensor PTZ camera, to just get a great image. So lighting really goes a long way, especially when you're using more budget-friendly camera systems. It's just really, really important. Kick lights, those are your hair lights or your back lights. We call those kick lights. Those can add just kind of a nice layer of depth to the background. Right now I have kind of a warmer light fixture above me. It kind of helps separate me from the background a bit and kind of creates a little bit more dimension to the image, which is helpful for, again, watching me in person if I were standing on a stage somewhere or online. Atmospheric lighting effects. These are like your moving lights, or maybe you're going to throw some light on the wall behind you and throw some color behind you. That kind of can stage or set the stage or affect the scenery or the atmosphere and the feel visually of your space. And you can even use things like haze, which literally look like an atmosphere because you actually have that kind of haze effect, or some people call it fog. Usually you're going to get a hazer for your lighting system, and you can actually see the beams of light. If your lights have gobos that can move and turn, it can really add some dynamics and energy to your lighting. And then finally, make sure your lights are aimed properly. This is another thing I want to show you here in a few moments. Make sure you aim them properly and then have a good user-friendly control interface up and running. We really like using LightKey because it's so easy to teach someone in like 30 seconds how to operate the software in the lighting cues, where for some reason a lot of other lighting consoles out there, they're not very user-friendly for someone who doesn't have experience with DMX programming and operating them. So here's an example of a before and after of enhancing a lighting system that was already there. We actually didn't add any new fixtures to it, but this was really an upgrade that came from just re-aiming the lights properly and then utilizing some wall wash lights that this church already had hanging around, and just having better practices when it comes to front lighting and kick lighting and the atmospheric effects. So you can see on the before image, it looks fairly flat. Like we just have a bunch of front wash light that's also getting onto the back wall, and it just doesn't look very clean. But onto the right side, we re-aimed the front lights so that it was only getting where the preacher is standing towards the downstage or the front of the stage. And then the front wash lights, we were careful to not let them bleed onto that like black wall or onto the screen behind him. And then we were able to throw some color behind the pastor, and it just looks phenomenal.
Liana?
Video systems. So how do we display and capture content for in-person or online participants? The first principles of video always come down to lighting. In the same way that like for audio, you want to think about things like acoustic treatment in your room. When it comes to video, before you even worry about a camera or a lens or a video switcher, how's your light? Because that's what video cameras need to function. If I were to shut this light off here in this room, that you wouldn't see me. It'd be completely black. Like, and the camera might try to respond if it was in automatic exposure mode. You might see it get super grainy because it has to bump up the ISO settings in order to make the image bright enough. But just make sure you have adequate lighting. What we just talked about, having adequate front lighting. How's your framing? This is another massive improvement you can make to any church live stream, whether you're using a budget camera or higher end camera. Is your framing right? Are you placing the subject in the right spot within the frame? So I could easily like move my camera around. Actually, why don't I just go ahead and do that? I'll find my camera controls right here. And if I were to move my framing up, this is what I mean by framing. So if I were talking to you guys like this, and let me just go ahead and pull up my control here of my video capture. So now I'm full screen. That's weird framing right here, right? You have a ton of awkward headroom up here. It doesn't look good, right? So instead, I'm going to bring that down to a place where I think it's adequate. So headroom for me, usually I do about like a hand space above the subject. Like I would pretend if they're holding their hand up here, that would look good. That can kind of vary sometimes depending on how tight you are on the image or how far away you are on the image. But very important when it comes to the framing side of things. Okay, so back to my presentation slides here. Got a little bit distracted with wanting to show you guys that. So let's go to over here. And here we go. So framing, very important. Exposure, make sure you have the exposure settings on. And I could do the same thing. I could show you all day like how we can tweak all these various settings and stuff on the camera, bumping the lighting exposure or the ISO or the exposure, the ISO, the aperture, the exposure triangle is very important to understand to optimize the image quality of your camera. Again, it can be a budget camera or a high-end camera. I'd rather have a budget camera with proper exposure than a high-end camera that's not exposed properly. White balance and color also very, very important when it comes to the image, the quality of the image. Is it going to be too warm of an image? Is it going to be cool of an image? There's all sorts of tutorials online. You can check out our channel when it comes to camera operation and video directing. Very fundamental to achieving excellent video quality for your worship gatherings. We talk about things like the rule of thirds as well, how you can place the subject in different parts of the frame. So all these things, very fundamental to your video system without even spending $1. Then streaming. How do we deliver audio and video to participants beyond the church walls? What's the internet upload speed? This is something that you might need to contact an internet service provider. If you have a really bad upload speed of let's say 5 megabits or 10 megabits per second or under, you're probably going to struggle on having a consistent, reliable live stream because you might have packet loss or just complete interruptions on getting that data out to the internet. How's your network managed at your church? Do you have a good configuration with routers and switches and data cables that are all functioning well? Again, this is foundational to your streaming infrastructure. Multi-streaming. Where are you going to send your live stream? Are you sending it to just YouTube? Are you going to include Facebook or Vimeo or the X platform or Instagram? There's all sorts of places you can put them. You can put them on your own private embedded web pages on your church website, the church online platform. So there's various options you can think through of how you want to actually get that content to your online viewers. Do you need a dedicated streaming encoder? So instead of using software like OBS or Ecamm or some of these other streaming solutions out there where the software on your computer, your normal computer like a laptop or desktop does the encoding, do you need to get a separate device to do that encoding just separately? So that's all that device has to worry about. It takes the video feed and the audio coming from your video switcher or cameras, it can encode it, and then it can send it online. Simple things like that can really go a long way to improving the resiliency and the strength of your live stream. Your team. So we talked a lot about audio, video, lighting setups. Hopefully you have some great tips that you can take away and instantly make improvements to those systems without really having to spend a dime, really just get some better practices implemented there. But don't overlook the importance of your team. How many positions do we really need on our team? I think some churches don't have enough people. Maybe some people kind of over-engineer how many people they actually need to run a Sunday effectively, efficiently, and sustainably. I know there's probably a lot of solo tech leaders out there, and props to you, and you're probably being forced, if you don't have any other volunteers, to actually just do more yourself, whether it's running sound and slides and live stream all at once. I would encourage you to work on recruiting other people to help you out, because it's not sustainable if you're the only one who does that every Sunday. And if something happens to you, who's going to run this stuff on Sunday? And then the other side of it is, I would say, don't overcomplicate it. If you're a smaller church of a few hundred people, you probably don't need more than 2 to 3 people max to run a really solid system with audio mixing, slides control, or like controlling something like ProPresenter, and then running your live stream cameras, right? That's probably the most common setup we see with a lot of the churches that we work with, is like a 3 workstation setup for churches that I'd say anywhere from 100 up to 500, 600 seat auditoriums. And then when you want to get more involved with like camera operators and things like that, that's where you could probably add some more volunteer positions to your team. Automation can really save a ton of folks out there on a lot of time and headache, and even some extra roles. Like one common one is, instead of having a dedicated lighting designer or operator for your service, you can actually automate a lot of lighting cues quite easily with software like ProPresenter and with LightKey. And you can just send automated MIDI cues from ProPresenter to LightKey to queue up various scenes or looks that you want throughout the service. Recruiting, like I said, very important. Just get out there, ask people, identify people in your church. Just ask them, like, hey, have you ever thought about serving with the team? And I think you'll be surprised to find how many people are willing to do that. They just never been asked. And then training. It's important when you ask them to join the team, make sure they have the training in place to walk them through what they need to know for the various systems. So I like it when, a church can create its own in-house training that's unique to its various systems, because that's going to be an efficient way for a volunteer to see how you run ProPresenter, how you want to run the cameras, how you run the mixing console. But you can do other types of trainings, whether it's with Churchfront or other platforms out there that have great online courses for them to learn the fundamentals of all of these systems. So that'll be very helpful for them as they help you run them and continue building them for your unique church. Standard operating procedures. This is also very important to make sure you have checklists on what are the responsibilities of each role on the production team, and making sure that everybody knows what things have to be done when they come in the church first thing on Sunday, what systems have to be fired on, what maybe that might include simple things like, hey, if the computer's already on, do a reboot or a restart just to make sure it's starting fresh for the morning. Double check that we have all the slides in properly. These are just simple checklists, like a pilot who's about to fly a plane. They have checklists they have to run through. The same thing for our production teams. We need standard operating procedure checklists to make sure we're not missing anything. Finally, I want to encourage you to invest time and energy into you. You are going to be the lid of your production ministry, and if you stop learning, the production ministry is going to stop growing. So there's so many great resources like YouTube. AI these days is phenomenal. I love going into AI and being like, hey, explain IT networking infrastructure to me like I'm an 8-year-old. And then it's going to give me an amazing explanation of things like VLANs and gateways and IP addresses and subnets that, sounds like a bunch of technical jargon, but the AI is actually really good at breaking these things down and being a teacher for these things. So the AI subscriptions are very inexpensive to how quickly they deliver to you some pretty great and I'd say very accurate knowledge. Going to events. So good job coming to this event today for the Worship Summit Live, and just be a part of more of these. Come, make sure you participate in these things continuously. Network with other churches in your area, and just make sure you're trying new things. Trying new things is what forces you to learn those new things, and that's the story of my life. I feel like I've learned more in the past year than I have in the past 5 years, because as Churchfront keeps growing, we keep doing more. It kind of forces me to learn more, a lot more, as we keep building out our team and our systems and what we can do for churches. And it's a blast. I think it's a lot of fun. So I'll leave you with this meme of don't over engineer, don't overcomplicate things. The Turkish guy in the shooting competitions at the Olympics last year, he didn't have any fancy gear. He just knew how to aim the gun and hit the target, right? Because he focused on the first principles of shooting, whereas a lot of the other competitors had all these fancy glasses and headpiece pieces and scopes and all that stuff, and they didn't win. So just keep it simple. Keep it focused on first principles. And I even I think there's some great reminders biblically for us, because that's why we're all here. If you look at the story of David and Goliath, and looking at the book Underdogs, Misfits in the Art of Battling Giants by Malcolm Gladwell, he brings an interesting point up about this story where David was able to have a pretty humble, simple setup when it comes to his weaponry, but he was very good at it. He was kind of the ancient Near East equivalent of a sniper with a sling. So when he threw that sling and that rock, it was probably going 100 miles an hour. So between having a very effective tool and that was kind of disruptive technology for the time. And having God on his side, he was able to defeat Goliath, which was insane. So things that might seem like an obstacle, like our limited resources, and David had limited resources when it came to his size and his armor and all of that. It actually can work to your advantage because it forces you to come up with better solutions. And then Jesus, he's the ultimate example of being a disruption to the norms. He was born in a humble manger. He didn't come with pomp and circumstances like you would expect a king to be born, right? And a lot of you guys probably have humble situations you're in right now with your production ministry where you don't have all the glory and the pomp and circumstances of a high-end production system, right? Instead, you have a humble team, you have a humble setup, but God will still use that for great things. And then Jesus also had a small team, right? And a team of misfits and guys who really didn't know what they were doing as disciples. But they were, Jesus was willing to be patient with them and keep leading them and teaching them and loving them. In the same way, we need to be patient with our team members, keep teaching them, be patient with them, keep loving them. And that's how you disciple, right? There's a discipleship opportunity, and God will use that for great things. Jesus was a servant leader. He was not arrogant ever. Jesus deserved to be treated like royalty, but he wasn't treated like royalty even by his own followers sometimes. So same way for us as leaders in our production ministry, don't expect to be treated like, a diva, right? There's some tech volunteers out there, tech leaders out there who for some reason think they need to be treated like a diva. They're kind of high maintenance. Just get rid of that. Don't do that. Be humble. Wash people's feet. Be a servant leader like Jesus. And then for Jesus, his greatest victory looked like defeat. And I know for us in the production world, we can face challenges and obstacles that, they're really defeating and frustrating. Let's say a situation comes up and you're trying to troubleshoot it. It takes hours, maybe days, and you throw everything at it, but you still feel stuck. Most times what happens is you end up just learning a ton in the process, and you can look back at that and be like, oh man, it stinks that I didn't figure that out, or our team didn't execute that as perfectly as we would have wanted for that service, but we learned really valuable knowledge that was really in hindsight now a victory, that looking at the situation that has dramatically improved the way we can handle these situations going forward. So same way, like the ultimate example here was the cross, seeming like it's like the worst case of defeat, was actually a victory because of what happened at the resurrection 3 days later. So keep your eyes set on Christ as you go about your worship ministry. If God can use a manger, fishermen, and a cross to transform the world, he can certainly use you, your team, and a modest ABL system to create excellent and impactful worship gatherings. Just keep it simple. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. That was Jesus's first principles of his way and what he taught to us in the gospel. And love God and love your neighbor, right? That's pretty much going to take care of this life and the spiritual journey that we're on. In the same kind of way, I think is an interesting analogy for us as AVL leaders. It just keep focused on the fundamentals of AVL that I talked about in here, and you will have a disruptive worship production environment that's going to achieve phenomenal results despite any limitations that you may feel. So thank you so much for allowing me to have some time to share with you today. I really enjoyed this, and you can learn more about what I do and what my team does at churchfront.com. We are always working with and consulting churches. We do installs of new systems or renovations or new builds. We do all the things at Churchfront. So just go to churchfront.com to learn more today, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.
All right. Thank you. That was Jake Goslin of Churchfront. Thanks for sharing your message with us today and our audience. Up next, we have Mr. Paul Richards, our very own Paul Richards, who's going to be talking about using OBS for churches. I'm going to kick it over to you, Paul. You ready?
Let's do this. Very excited. Throughout my career in live streaming and production, I've actually published 2 guides, and they're available for free on streamgeeks.us. One is the unofficial guide to OBS. I'll say this is like the best place to start, very high level. It's I'm not going to say dated, but I did publish it like 4 or 5 years ago. There's some releases that have happened since then with OBS. And I came back and said, I want to have like a super user guidebook, something that really digs into OBS, all the fine details. And that's the OBS Super User Guidebook. So you can download these for free on our website, print them out, or get a paperback copy on Amazon, whatever's easiest for you. And they come with online courses as well. So these are great if you've got a volunteer or someone who you want to learn OBS. This is a great place to start. And throughout my travels on this planet, I bumped into several really, really passionate and just intelligent OBS users who shared with me how they're using OBS for their worship services. And that's what my presentation is going to be on today. Really making OBS work for worship. Not, it mainly it's used for gamers and it's used for esports and streaming of all kinds. Let's really look at OBS as a tool for streaming worship. So let's jump into it. Now, in my presentation, we're going to set up OBS in a way that is a little maybe different than you've seen it. One of the things, for example, that we're looking at here is just stretching and moving OBS to fit in a different way. So when we start to, it's very configurable. So one of the things you'll notice is you can start moving things around and placing things in different areas and create, like you can put your audio mixer in different areas. You can flip it, rotate it, do all kinds of different things. There's a vertical layout here. So there's a lot of ways to start changing and manipulating OBS to fit your workflow. And in my presentation here, one of the things you'll see is that in this tutorial, you can build out lots and lots of scenes. You can have an unlimited number of scenes. And if you do this intelligently, you can name them with the start time. So you can have the time, you can give volunteers some notes there. And it's really about optimizing OBS to fit your workflow. So we're going to set up and manage OBS so it's easy enough that any volunteer can do this. We are going to show you how to do the live streaming. I'm going to show you how you can add PTZ camera controls to OBS, but also to individual scenes. So you can click one button and you can set up and name these scenes so the camera will go to exactly where you want it to when you go to that scene. We'll show you how to use groups. And there's some tools and little details of OBS that you probably have seen 100 times that I think you might not be using. Just like the ability to lock sources in place, for example, and folders, simple things that make it a lot easier to operate your Sunday services. So if you want to get one of these guides, as I said, just go to streamgeeks.us and download it for free, print it out on your printer, or you can get one on Amazon. I've updated these several times. And if you just want to give it to one of your volunteers to get them involved, they can get started. So at a high level, OBS in studio mode has a preview screen on one side and an output screen on the other. It's easier to not have to have both of these screens. So you'll see here that right now I just have one screen in the middle. And that is easier. When you click a scene, it'll just go to that scene. The scenes are on the bottom left, right? So if I zoom in here, it's a little fast. I'm going to slow that down for our next zoom there. But you can see that this is where the buttons are down here on the left. Now, you've got some options to show buttons, lists. I think the list mode is really, really usable for worship services because you can go in here and name these. So one of the things you might want to do is you might want to have a list within the order that you're going to do it. So for example, having scene 1 be number 1. You've got a time, right? So let's say it's an 8:45 service. I've got a note here saying, hey, we're not streaming yet, but this is the scene we use to just test the camera and the audio. At 9 a.m., when the service starts, we will go to scene number 2. And then maybe we've got a scene number 3, for example, and just explaining what time are these scenes happening, what is in the scene. In this case, there's a video, and just giving you an example of kind of how you can put a lot of information in just the name of the scene itself to really optimize everything. Now, as you probably already know, at the bottom left, you have your scenes, which I'm going to go over today, how we can really name those and organize them. Then the next bucket is your sources. And this is another area where we can really do a lot that I think maybe most people breeze over. But in the scenes area, one of the things we can do is we can start to make folders. And it's simple, easy type of stuff like this. But I just want to take a peek at this. You can see here, I've got 2 scenes, and you can create folders simply by clicking this group button here. And let's just say, we'll call this, scene 3. And what I'm doing is I'm creating a group of sources. Now you'll notice you can click and drag these to kind of have scene 1, scene 2, scene 3. You can put sources inside of these scenes, okay? And that way you can take an entire group, okay, an entire folder full of video and audio sources, and you can close them. You can hide them. So instead of deleting the whole thing, you can hide it. So for example, in your house of worship, if on a Sunday, sometimes the pastor is set up at the podium, but other times it's more of a hymnal start where you want to have a wide shot, you can actually have, without having to reset up every time, you can just have 2 different groups of scenes, and you can say, hey, pastor, are you going to be doing a podium start or are you going to be doing a hymnal start? Just let us know, and we will. It's so easy to just close and open these different options without having to rebuild everything every time. You'll also notice that there's a lock button next to this as well. And what that does is if something is if it's not locked, then you can move things around in the canvas. And that just really can leave it open to errors being happen. Maybe somebody accidentally clicks a button up, it's not in the right place. So that lock button, once you're in here, you're feeling comfortable, I highly recommend locking the entire folder, each source. You just hit that lock button. Now it's completely locked and it shouldn't be able to be moved at all when you lock. So everything's locked. Now I can't move it. If I click and drag it by accident, it's locked in there. So as you're organizing your OBS, you're thinking through the scenes, right? Got multiple scenes. And you're seeing when I click one of these scenes, the camera moves. I'm going to go over that in a little bit. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but you can have different scenes and really make it easy so that, it says what time does the scene happen? What's the name of the scene? Is it different when it's live versus maybe when it's a recorded piece of content? And so these types of things really help. So if you adopt this type of way of thinking about OBS, it might lead to you having a lot more scenes than you do now. If you just have 1 or 2 scenes in OBS, you've got a little bit of work to do to make this faster and easier for volunteers and other people to do this. And it's going to make it a lot easier. So what you're going to want to do is start to create some new scenes. And you can see in this list right here, in this OBS, the video is quite small. The video is just a very small piece right here, and more space is being given to this long list of scenes that we're going through as the worship service is going through. And we've got kind of an estimate on the start time and where we should be. And if you're doing, welcome messages, if you're doing images, if you're doing PowerPoint or you're playing videos, you can say exactly what all of that is in the scenes area. Now, another piece of this, just so you're aware, you can duplicate a scene, okay? So it's not that hard to create these scenes that we're going to be using. You can go into your scene, say, you know what? I need to make another one of these. Boom, I'm going to duplicate it. This scene's going to be for 9:10. And it's a little bit different this time because now we're making a different area for this scene. So you can build up these scene lists quite easily. All right. Now, really quickly, just so you know, my theme of OBS might look different than yours. And that is because in the settings area, you can go in and you can change the themes. So in the believe it's in the general area, but it might be now in appearance. Yep, there it is. You can get different themes. So you can change the colors. I really do like the new ochre color that we were using recently. So I'm going to leave it at that. But if you want to change it to a darker color, it's easier on the eyes. You can do that in the themes area. Now, we're really going to be talking about organizing these scenes. We're also going to be talking about organizing the sources. But just high level, we're going to get a number for each scene so that they have an order. We're going to give it a name. And if possible, some helpful notes that will help those volunteers and people that you're trying to get used to. Now, the list view is best for this. If you only have 2 or 3 scenes, you can do a grid view where it's just buttons. That could be easy. You can have a stream deck set up to trigger these scenes. But once we've organized our scenes, we want to organize our sources. And this is where folders come in. And you may have never used this before, but you can hide an entire folder worth of stuff and completely change what that scene is doing. And let's be honest, in a lot of worship services, things change. We do different things throughout the calendar. And so having hey, this is my folder for when the pastor's at the podium, but this is my folder when we're at the hymnal, and I can go back and forth very easily. Now I've got a really easy way to do that. So think about using scenes and labeling them. But that's not all. Don't forget to lock your sources once you've got it where you want it. Oh, got to zoom out here for you. Sorry about that. We want to lock the sources once they're in the right place. But the ability to toggle visibility on and off, that can be done with a click of that little icon, but also can be done with a shortcut. So if you're using a Stream Deck or a shortcut in OBS, you can also toggle visibility that way as well. You'll also notice that there is a layer button there, so you can go up and down in the layers. So for example, if I want to move this above or below, all I have to do is click the up or down arrows. So it's just like Photoshop or other solutions where it stacks. So the layer on the top will be on the top and shown above the layers below. So it's a kind of top-down layer like that. Just to give you an example there. Okay, now here's another example of using these titles really in a smart way. You can create hotkeys, okay? And I'm going to create a hotkey with you today. So let's say we go into a hotkey, and our hotkey is going to be just to toggle on and off the visibility of scene 1. So let's say we go into hotkeys here, and you'll notice that we have a hotkey for showing and hiding scene 2. And I actually wanted to do scene 1. So where are you? Let's see here. All right, we'll do scene 2 actually. So here it is, right? Where are you? Sorry about this. Okay. So we can show or hide scene 2 or show or hide scene 1. So these are nested within the scene itself. So let's go ahead and create, I'll just do Shift A, okay, to show it, and Shift B to hide it, and hit apply. Now that's great, but how is our volunteer supposed to remember that? How am I supposed to remember that, right? So what you can do is you can put it in the actual name. So you can just put, scene 1 and just put Shift plus A so that you don't have to remember it so much. So if I hit Shift A and Shift B, it will go ahead and hide or show those. So something to think about from a shortcut perspective is creating those shortcuts, but also putting the name of the shortcut there so you don't have to remember all these shortcuts. It's right there for you. When we create hotkeys, we go into settings, as we did recently there. We go into the hotkeys, and there's going to be a hotkey for everything in OBS. And it's kind of, as we saw, it's per scene. So each scene has all of the inputs in there, and you can show or hide them with a toggle of a shortcut. Now, another magical thing that I'm kind of doing today that I wanted to show was, you'll notice when I switch between scene this one and this one, one of the things that's happening here is the camera's moving. And I want to show a little bit how we're doing that. There's a dockable joystick controller on the side of OBS right here. So what that does is that gives me the ability to quickly and easily control the camera. So I can control the camera left and right there, zoom in and out, right in OBS. So if I need to make a little change, pastor's moved over a little bit, I can do that. The other thing you can do, and by the way, I should just mention that I have the NDI plugin for OBS installed. So that allows me to output the video from OBS to other locations. And we're not going to have time to get into that today, unfortunately, but the book covers it quite a bit. But anyway, you can have a web browser input. Okay, so the input that's a web browser input, when I hit the plus button and I go to browser source, you can add a PTZ preset to this. And the cool thing about that is, if we look at the one I have set up already, this is what it looks like. You can send a message to the camera, and I actually don't need that. You can send the message to the camera using the IP address and what we call an HTTP command. And this is going to be in my presentation. I can send you guys my full presentation afterwards so you can look at this. But essentially what this is doing is saying, hey, camera, move to preset 2 when this scene is active, because I have the 2 at the end there. If I change that to 3, it'll call preset 3. So that's all it does. So when I go to scene 1, it's going to call preset 1. And so now you can have an entire scene within OBS with one click. It can change a camera, it can move to a new area, and it can do all of that without having to move the camera at all or call a preset. So something to think about and how all of that works. So just showing how that works. If you've been using this in the past, we do have a new security feature called HTTP commands, and you will need to turn off authentication off on the PTZOptics cameras to do this, just so you're aware. And then these dockable controllers here are really, really easy. I want to show you how those work. Essentially, what you can do is you can take a full dockable controller here, and in the docks, in custom browser docks, you have the ability to drag and drop any web browser file that you would like. Now, on our website, for example, you will notice that we have lots of these dockable controllers. If you just search for PTZOptics dockable controller, what you'll find is we have a download so that you can dock these directly onto OBS. You can download them here. When you download them, they come in a folder of dockable controllers. And when you open them in a web browser, there is a file address. Sorry about that. So this is the website here. You can download them. And when you open it, there's a file address. It's just on your local computer. And you can take that address and say, put it into your OBS and hit apply. And now you can drop this anywhere you want in the OBS interface to have control. So I've done that in 2 spots. I have a mini controller, which I think actually fits really nicely right here. And then I have a larger controller with all of these presets. And you can actually change those images on those presets as well if you'd like to change them. So something to think about. Oh, that preset had a very strange effect. Some of these presets also save exposure, which is confusing sometimes. I apologize about that. Okay, so let's keep going. So again, example of the hotkeys. So you can have the ability to toggle visibility of any source on and off by hitting the button of Control, plus Shift 4, for example, Control Shift 3. So hard to remember unless it's in the actual name of the source, and then you can easily recall it. Now, another thing I wanted to bring up was the ability to use standard file names. So if you're referencing a piece of text or referencing a video or referencing an image that you're going to have updated all the time, if you're using the exact same file, like intro video or text or image, and you're updating it on Dropbox, for example, OBS can reference that file and you can change them at home and it'll update it on the computer automatically. So if you're doing different hymns, if you're doing different videos or displaying text for titles, you can pull that from files that are locally on your computer and you can manage the updating of them via Dropbox. So very good for date, for preludes, for postludes, things like that where you sync up Google Drive or Dropbox together and it'll pull right into your OBS production. We talked about the controller. The controller can be customized as well. That is via HTML, so you have to have a little bit of knowledge, but you can update the HTML, changing the names and the images in your dockable controller to make it easier for volunteers. Another thing that I hear a lot about with OBS, I apologize, I'm going a little over my time here, but one of the biggest problems is syncing the audio. And in the advanced audio properties, I got to show this. Essentially, you have the ability to do an offset. So I would be surprised if you wouldn't help by adding 50 milliseconds of latency to your video sources. It would surprise me if your system's so fast that it doesn't need a little bit of latency to better sync up audio and video, because video just takes more to process. If you're having an audio sync issue, I recommend adding 25, then going to 50, then going to 75, and keep going until your audio and video are synced up properly. That's a big problem for a lot of people, so I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. I'm going to try to finish up here, Tess. Sorry about that.
No worries.
There's audio monitoring, by the way, something to think about. If you want to monitor all of the audio coming into OBS, that is different from the audio that is streaming out and being recorded. So you've got a different channel for audio monitoring. A lot of people don't realize that there is the ability to have filters on top of your video sources. And there's a lot of new ones in here as well. So you can do some really interesting things with audio and video. Really, it's honestly better for audio. If you just want to add a little bit of noise suppression, they have some tools for that to make your audio sound better. So take a look at these filters for all of your sources and see what you can do to make them better. Fortunately, I don't have too much time left, so I'm going as fast as I can here. We talked about the custom browser docs, allowing you to fully customize your OBS setup. And then here's like an example of showing a chat room, using the grid view, putting the audio mixer on the side. There's a lot you can do with the customizations here. Also, there's a multi-view for OBS. So if you're using OBS, consider using the multi-view, okay, which is right here. You can pop it right out and put this on a second monitor. So especially if you're using a lot of scenes like we were recommending, right? You've got a huge scene list and a really small view here. If you've got a second monitor and you put that multi-view on there, you're going to be able to see everything so much more clearly. And then from a camera control perspective, we have a lot of houses of worship. You can use an Xbox joystick. You can use your remote. You can use the dockable controller. You can use, obviously, one of our joystick controllers. And then we even have a brand new app as well. And I don't have time, of course, to go into our PTZOptics Hive app that allows you to control all the cameras remotely. But there's a lot of options for controlling the cameras and bringing OBS into that workflow. So I hope that was helpful. That's all the time I have today.
We're kicking you out.
But thank you so much. I will be in contact soon. And if you guys have any questions, just let me know.
Yeah, and if you wanted to join the breakout room later, you can too.
Yeah,
So
I'll do that from the conference room.
Okay,
I can do that.
No worries. All right. Thank you so much, Paul. That was wonderful. Up next, we have Brandon Marks talking about connecting to God through the power of live streaming. So, Brandon, I'm going to go ahead and make sure you're spotlit and take it away.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. I'm so glad to be here. How's everyone enjoying the summit so far? Everyone feeling good? I think it's been so awesome thus far. Love the little response bubbles that Apple does now. Wanted to thank Paul for inviting me to join you guys today. I think PTZOptics is such a great company, and what an amazing experience to offer these sessions for free. So I love it. I love everything that you guys have done, and I appreciate just having me be part of this. So I loved also what Jake was talking about with using those first principles to be a disruptor. And I'm going to kind of piggyback on a little bit of that to talk to you about how you can transform your team. And that's by stewarding the atmosphere. And you might be asking, well, what does stewarding the atmosphere and mean? And we're going to learn. So this is for you if you're a tech person, if you're a pastor. The only thing that's really required for this is that you care about your church services and how it affects people. So I'm going to screen share presentation here, so everybody should be able to see that. There we go. And just to start, I'd love to share a little bit about myself, since it might be the first time that I get to meet you. I started in production as a theater character, and you're never going to guess which one that was. It's actually Tinkerbell. It's a funny story, and it's really not as weird as it sounds. It was a specialized spotlight character, so I was not dressed up. That would be a little strange, but this was a cool spotlight, and I got to learn some of the ins and outs. I ran sound and lights at a local theater company at that point. And then for 5 years after that, I spent time at a hospital doing corporate video production. And that's where I fell in love with the tangible impact the video can have. It all started on an editing system. And I remember when I would put the music with the words that people were saying, I saw firsthand everything, the power of what that video can produce. So after that, I thought I wanted to take this to the next level. I went to Los Angeles and studied film at Biola University, and then I continued to work in commercial filmmaking. I volunteered at my church once I got to Texas, and I accidentally, over the course of about 10 to 14 years, became the director of video at Gateway Church. I was overseeing video teams and systems and the creative at 10 campuses. So I left in early 2024 last year to start my own company. And basically what we do is training live video directors and helping churches create the best visual atmosphere. And as you can see in the picture on the top, my wife and I have created 5 mini humans, which has been the best part of those years. So I'm really excited to get to know you as well. I want everyone to take out your phone and scan this QR code. It's going to ask a really simple question, and it's going to be, what is your role at your church? I would love to get to know who are you and who are we talking to? And that way we can just see, and we'll show on the poll result as well, who everyone is and what your role is at church, because there's a variety of people, right? There's technicians, pastors, worship leaders, and then people who are just here because they found a free link. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that. I'll pull up the results here. Results are coming in. Awesome. Lots of tech leaders. I'm going to pull up that QR code one more time just in case anyone didn't get a chance to see that. And then we'll go back to the results. There we go. Awesome. So tons of tech leaders, got a lot of volunteers as well. Worship leaders, love it. Technicians, that's great. So this is for you, what we're going to be talking about. I love to see it. Leading tech is one of those things that I fondly look back to all the years I had full-time at a church as an amazing time of ministry. And sometimes we're the ones who get forgotten if things are going well. And if things aren't going well, if there's like a big snafu, then we're definitely noticed. But something that I can feel very good about. Okay, I got you. You can't scan your phone, but front of house, awesome. Lots of sound people. I love that as well. Thanks for responding to that. Well, I want to tell you a little bit about what I learned in my time at Gateway and throughout the years as far as what it means to be in the tech role. So I want this to be inspiring to you. You're a tech leader, most of you, some volunteers, pastors as well. it's really important that we keep the most important thing, right? One of my favorite parts about working in the church was giving tours and trainings. But one of the responses I would get towards the end of that tour would be kind of a glazed over look in their eyes. And people would say, "Oh, that's really cool what you're doing, but I don't have a X amount of dollars budget. I don't have $1 million budget or $100,000 budget, whatever it may be. So yeah, we can never do this." But that is where they went wrong. It's not just budget and numbers. It's all about your most important asset. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. That's your team, which includes you. I mean, you're obviously a vast majority of you are the leader of the team, but you are the team. Your team is very, very important. And that's what we need to steward well. And when we steward that team well, we can do our job the best. And what is that ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is connecting people to God. The tool we get to use that are the people and audio, video, and lighting, right? So today's talk is about stewarding the atmosphere. You've seen the title and probably wondered, what does that mean? Kind of like I teased a little bit earlier. We're going to talk about what the atmosphere is, how you can steward it, and I'm going to give you some practical tips and a bunch of things that you can download for free just to help at your church starting this weekend. We have church services in 48 hours or less, right? All right, what is an atmosphere? It's lunchtime in my time zone here and probably in a lot of yours as well. So like looking at a coffee shop makes me really think, wow, that sounds great right about now. So stay with me and use this as your digital caffeine as we get going into the afternoon. It's been a really packed day. But I want you to think about, what is an atmosphere? I mean, it's a term we use all the time. But on the left, I'm just picturing this coffee shop that's really dark and dingy. Can't really read the menu. The staff is rude and it smells terrible. But the coffee's good. Okay, so good coffee and an atmosphere that's not very good makes a difference on your whole experience. I actually went to a coffee shop that was just like this recently. It smelled like they needed to clean and plunge the bathroom throughout the whole entire place. The menu is impossible to read. This is not a picture of the real coffee shop. Otherwise, I might get someone in trouble. But the one on the right, think about this. It's a well-lit, really nice menu. The staff's amazing and it smells great, but the coffee is just okay. Which one of these are you going to take your friends, family, your meetings to? I'm going to go to the one where the coffee's okay, even though I'm a little bit of a snob, because it's all about the atmosphere. They both have an atmosphere, right? And which one of them helps you connect people? And we're going to talk about that regarding the church, right? So this is the atmosphere. These golden arrows is where you, as the tech leader, majority of us in this room are, we get to connect people to God. So our worship leaders, the pastors, they're preparing for the service, and the congregants come into the building from whatever they've been through during the week. And you get that blank space between the two. We usually call that an auditorium, as an atmosphere that you get to steward and make something where they can connect to God. We use audio, video, and lighting, and it all has a direct correlation on how we do that, right? You don't need audio, video, and lighting to connect with God. I'm going to be the first to admit that. I've had amazing experiences with God sitting in my car or in the shower or when I'm tucking the kids into bed. But when you're at church, it's all about making that atmosphere the most easy to enter in for the congregation. That atmosphere we're talking about today is the space between the worship leader and pastor and the congregation. And that's the area that you get to steward. And my question for you is, how are you going to steward it? Again, we know the basics, the building blocks, audio, video, and lighting. But again, I want to go back to the most important thing, and Jake touched on this as well. Nothing of these three matter if you don't have a well-functioning team. So that's the first thing that we get to steward. The first thing we're getting to steward is the team. You want to have the right people in the right positions to know how to use the gear the fullest. And Jake used an example with this. He's saying some churches have too many, some churches have too little. It's all about structuring well. And one of the things I'd love to give away to you guys at the end of this is a job description list of every tech position in the realm of church and secular tech, just so you can see what's available. But really, what are the building blocks of what's right for your team? We're going to talk a little bit about that. So the team stewardship, when you're stewarding your team, there's three things that are really important that I've learned over the years, and that's spiritual, relational, and technical creative. spiritual first. This is a really big deal. And as a tech leader, this is something that you need to really take seriously with your team. And that is remembering this, that your title may not be pastor, but you are pastoring people. You're pastoring them with the art of what they're doing. But also think about this, the volunteers that serve on your team, whether you have 2 volunteers on a weekend or 200, they are not attending church when they're serving, and neither are you, right? So we're part of it, we're in it. We used to have 6 services in a weekend, and my wife would say, well, what do you think of the sermon? I'm like, I don't really know what happened in the sermon, even though I directed it 6 times, right? So just because we're working, it doesn't mean we receive. And so as a pastor, without the title, we have that need to steward these folks that are on our team. There's a lot of introverts. I'm one of them. Lots of people with introversion mean there's lots of people with opportunities for ministry. So we're listening to sermons together, having a Bible study, having prayer time, to make sure that we steward people spiritually is really important. So I think it's really important that we take time out of our, rehearsal time, out of the prep time. If you have multiple services, the time in between, to make sure that we are in unity as a team, but also helping them spiritually, and also thinking about the fact that everyone needs somebody and something at all times, right? So it's really important to always just be aware of the needs of your team. And that brings me to relational team building activities are amazing. I think in the chat, I was just said introverts unite distantly. I totally get that. But also we need to bring introverts out of the shell and have those relational times. So I think it's an amazing idea to have team building activities, whether that's like a quarterly celebration, like I say, like have fun, don't be so serious, and have party, like celebrate the wins. There should always be wins to celebrate at church and with what you do. So celebrate people, celebrate birthdays, celebrate things so that you bring your relational aspects of your team together. And then also on the flip side of that is like having the honest conversations that can be really hard. I've had volunteers that we've worked with that I think you just know that someone is not going to be capable of serving in the place that they really want to serve, right? And so if they're not capable of it and you know it and it's just not working no matter how much you've tried, it does a disservice to the team. This is just an example. It does a disservice to the team to just keep things going as status quo when things are actually really rough and need to be worked on. People won't grow without that. So relational is all about the fun and the team building, but also having those hard conversations so that we can grow and they can grow. And lastly, I listed technical and creative. Yes, that is the job description, right? But I think it comes last because nothing should come in the way of the spiritual and relational on your team. Now, that doesn't mean be completely unskilled and pray a lot. What that does mean is that when it comes to the importance of how you steward your team, spiritual and relational are the most important. With that, the goal is a distraction-free environment, right? That connects people to God. That's the atmosphere we're serving. And so having a training plan is super important. So what I want everyone to think about is how we can develop, if you don't have one, Jake talked about SOPs, like have a training plan. So we're avoiding the OTJT, on the job training plans, where everything that you're doing, you're learning on the job. And I did that. I learned on the job from the person who taught me to direct, and it worked out, but it was not super effective, right? So find ways to train people, have a plan, and that gives them something to aspire to. I remember we've had people who would volunteer as a camera op, and this guy was a camera op for 6 years. And he said, "When am I ever going to get a chance to direct?" It's like, well, I didn't know you were interested, for one, but for two, we didn't have a plan on how to get them there. So having a plan for everyone to succeed and lead up to something is awesome. And I see Michael saying that the team training the last Saturday of every month. I love that. Recurring trainings, even for people that are already trained and want to learn something new or just continuing the education, is really important. Lastly, have a creative brand guide. So just like standard operating procedures, have a brand that helps your look and feel be defined. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I want to do one more, two more polls. The first one here, what out of these 3 areas is your biggest area of struggle for you and your team? So if you can pull that phone back out or type it in the chat, but would love to see another poll based on where the biggest area of struggle, because I feel like there's going to be a pretty big commonality here out of spiritual, relational, and creative. So let me pull that poll up. Results are coming in. Technical, yep, yep. And that's pretty typical, especially in the church situation. But not surprisingly, spiritual is there too, because I think it's a mix of personalities, and it's also a mix of like the orientation of like we are doing a job and we are service instead of we are ministry. You are truly part of the ministry. So I want this to help everyone feel normal when you see these poll results, right? I want you to feel normal and like you're not the you're not the only one, right? Thank you for responding to that. That's awesome. The second part of what we're going to talk about today is the service. So this is how we actually steward the service. And since this is a super short session, there's a variety of church types in the room, and so I'll keep it really generic. But let's do our last poll here. Which type of gear do you use on a regular basis? Sorry, went a little quick on that last poll. This is, I'm curious to know, in your church, out of the main audio, video, lighting, the type of gear that you have, what is the most common? You can select multiple on this one. So go ahead and take time to pull out your phone. I see you, Deacon Murray Jr. Sorry, it was a little too fast on that last one. So here's the question in the poll. You can scan this, and then the question is, what type of gear do you use on a regular basis? And it's basically it's multiple choice: audio, video, lighting. What's the biggest in your church? And looking at the poll results here, a lot of churches have cameras. That's great. I think if we had this talk pre-COVID, there would be very little cameras at use, but COVID really brought, I think, the best out of the visuals. So yes, lots of church have lots of cameras, sound system, lyrics, obviously. And then lighting, I think intelligent lighting rig is the lowest. And whoever voted, I don't have electricity, love you. That's hilarious. That might be a totally different problem, and I'm surprised you're on the Zoom. So again, this just helps us to see like who we're talking to. And I love, as a video person, being able to talk right at you with the cameras and lyrics, but then sound system as well. Every church has to be heard, right? So love it, Joshua. I'll remember you. All right, so these are the areas we get to steward. Thank you for responding to that poll as well. These are the service elements that we get to steward. And the first one listed might not be what you were expecting. So who has an amazing relationship with their tech team worship pastors and pastors? Like who has the best relationship with all of them? Now, I imagine that it's not like everyone's, yes, it's me. I have the most amazing relationship with the pastors. I wish that were the case in most cases, but in my experience, that's often kind of a difficult place. And your role as a tech leader is really to bridge the gap, to bring them together, the tech folks with the vision that the ministry has. And so one of the things that I want to give away to you guys at the end here is it's kind of a guide in relating to your worship pastor who has an event that they want to put on. Because a lot of times worship leaders, pastors, they have this vision, and then the tools that you have to execute it, and they might not always connect. So that's a really big part of the communications and planning. And I love to hear when you have fortunate to have a great worship team working with you, Christelle, if I'm saying your name correctly. I think that's amazing. That is something amazing, and we can all learn from you and your team. The problem is when that doesn't exist, I've seen resentment build up. Resentment in terms of, oh, pastor so and so, they always want this, or they bring their sermon notes in too late, or any of those things. And that grumbling causes resentment. And in my opinion, resentment and bitterness are a cancer to your team because it spreads, right? It spreads, and it all just brings everyone down with them, from the staff members to volunteer. So it's really important, in addition to having that great relationship and really working on stewarding that, is to plan and rehearse. Rehearsal is an amazing time that I see so many teams just let go by the wayside. Oh, the worship band, they need to rehearse, so there'll be a sound guy there. But what about the rest of your team? A majority of you guys have cameras, and that means you might have a director, lyrics, all the things. Every element of your service should be rehearsed so that there's no glitches and snafus during the service, because again, we're all going back to having that atmosphere that we're stewarding, that's a distraction-free atmosphere. don't disengage with your rehearsal. If the worship team isn't taking it seriously, or if you're not, it's something to really consider and to talk about. With audio, Jake covered a lot of this, so I'll be really brief. The basics is you're bringing clarity to the sound and creating a physical energy. That's obviously what you're doing. But with your mix, think about like the fact that you're creating an immersive auditory experience with your mix. That's a whole load of words, but what that means is that it's beyond just loudness. It's about the textures and the emotional dynamics in music. You are bringing that out, whether it's just an organ or if you have a full band. Remember that job is super critical. The sound engineer directly affects people's abilities with the music, especially to tap into what they're experiencing. Video, lyrics, and cameras. That's the bulk of video, right? But the worship leader needs the confidence of having the lyrics, and the congregation needs it too. But have you thought about this? Multimodal learning is really important, and that's when you learn through various sensory inputs. Like when you're in school and you were taught to write down the notes and to read and to listen to the instructor. It's the same when you are reading the lyrics that you're singing. It makes a big difference, because I could sing Of Your Love Forever, right? I know that song. I could sing it without reading the lyrics, but when I'm singing it and reading it and hearing it simultaneously, it makes a huge difference. So the way that your church presents lyrics is really critical and important because of the multimodal learning. It also is applicable with sermon notes, obviously learning as well. Cameras, with cameras, you're capturing the moment and telling the story. Think about the different audiences you have. You may just have your in-room audience. You may only have a live stream. You may have both. But who are you telling the story to of what's going on? Ideally, you'll show different things in IMAG than you would to your live stream audience. And then lighting, just like Jake said, it's really noticeable whether things are well or not with lighting. And one of the things I want to say is that haze is your friend. I know there's a lot of churches who are afraid to use the haze because it seems like a rock concert, but I want to really end our time. I know I'm going just a little bit over, but this is a Bible verse. You can look it up as well. This is Revelation 4:2-5, and it talks about what heaven is like. And I'll give you a chance to read it on your own, but in some, heaven's going to be amazing and spectacular. There's going to be so many things in heaven that we can't even picture in our minds. Glistening lights, green lights, glowing, sparkling, all these amazing things. Now, this Bible verse is, I'm not being heretical here. I'm not saying that this is talking about church tech. But what I'm trying to tell you is that heaven is going to be an amazing place, and that we shouldn't shy away from helping people engage. Okay, lastly, we're going to talk about the brand. I talked a little bit about a brand guide, and that's something that we need to keep in mind. And this is something that I would love to share with you in some documents to download. So there's a lot more. I wrote a book about this with a great friend of mine, Tim Sawtell, and it's called Stewarding the Atmosphere. I would love to give away a copy of the book to someone. So if you guys want to scan this QR code, you'll be entered to get the giveaway of this free signed book. It's 400 pages and it covers so much. And then as we wrap up, I would love to give away something to everybody, and that is a download packet. Everything that we talked about, there's going to be examples, there's going to be framing guides. Like Jake talked about, framing is one of the most important things. And most importantly, a 50% discount on all of my online courses. So as we end today, just remember that at the end of the day, you're stewarding the atmosphere for people to enter into worship at your church. And it's an incredible opportunity that you have to do that. So thank you for your time, everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
All right. Thank you so much, Brandon. We really appreciate you presenting to our audience, and they were really receptive to it. So thank you again. I'm going to go ahead and spotlight myself so you guys can see me before I introduce our next speaker. We have George Bershaw of Epiphan coming on to talk about working with volunteers in House of Worship. So we're going to go ahead and cue George in just a moment here. Let me make sure you're unmuted. You are unmuted. All right, let's go ahead and spotlight George.
Thanks, Tess. Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me okay. It's great to be here. It's nice to see this big group. I see 149 people watching. So I'm here in Ottawa, Canada. It's actually really sunny out, which is nice. It's still cold, and that's making us a bit grumpy here. But I'm happy to be here on a Friday. And like Tess said, we spend a lot of time talking about the idea of volunteer-friendly technology. And while I'm sure there are a mix of volunteers and professionals who are doing video in our houses of worship, we think if we can design a technology that is volunteer friendly, we're doing a good job, because that means it's going to be easy to use. So that's what we'll talk about today. We'll do a bit of a boot camp on how to set up your house of worship or your church for somebody else to be able to successfully live stream and record the activities that are happening in that church. And I'll give you a little bit of a background about who we are if you're not familiar. So we often talk about this concept of broadcast without barriers. And what we mean by that is the idea of making it really easy for people to do broadcasting, to do live streaming. And we started, I think, 24 years ago with equipment used on the space station. So this is our roots. In fact, it's still there today, where we have all these mission critical applications using our equipment to capture video, like on the space station or in underwater exploration. This company called Under the Pole is using us to capture video. So what they care about is really reliable tech. So that's our bread and butter. But since then, we've expanded. Now we're all over the place. And we're in a lot of the spaces that you probably don't quite realize. We're in the community centers. We're in the co-working spaces and event spaces and classrooms. And it's usually in a dusty, control room or in a podium or wherever they keep their audio video technology. But we're there powering a lot of that video. And we like to say we can make every space a studio. And that includes a church where you have this great space, you have all these great conversations happening. We want you to be able to make that space into a studio environment. And beyond that, we want you to be able to make a great looking video. That's fundamentally what most people are talking about when they're talking about live streaming. You're trying to reach your congregation who is not there with you that day. And you want to look great, and you want to feel great, and you want to feel confident about it. And good technology lets you do that because it means you're not busy focusing on the technology. You're not frustrated by trying to get things to work. You can just go in there and do what you need to do. So I'm just reminded I need to actually keep an eye on the chat here, which I got to find. Chat. Okay, great. See lots of people here. Great, okay. Our portfolio of products. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with our equipment, but we're mostly known for our hardware, in that we have the Pearl family of hardware encoders that let you record video, stream video, do switching on it, and ultimately get your video everywhere it needs to go. And like I said, it's used in all of these mission critical applications, but also in a lot of churches they're using it because it's really easy to use. We're also known for our capture cards if you need to convert a signal from an HDMI into USB. And then all of this is supported by a lot of cloud software. So it's one thing to have great hardware. Well, if you complement that with software that lets you control that hardware from far away, you're going to like that, especially if you're in a technical role and you're not in the facility with that equipment. So we'll get a little bit into the software, but we'll talk mostly about the hardware stack today. And a couple of other software pieces we offer are Epiphan Connect, which lets you bring your Zoom and Teams guests into the production. So if anybody here is doing a hybrid style work at a church, I'd love to know that. I haven't honestly heard very many people using that kind of a hybrid model there. So this would be a great chance to talk about that and maybe try to troubleshoot how to make that work really well. Okay. I have a piece of kit here that I can show you. So this is a Pearl Mini. So this is one of these hardware encoders that you see, and you'll see it's got big, beautiful touch screen on the front, and I can bring in all my inputs on the back, be it HDMI or SDI, or what's really important, especially in a church, is XLR. So this is going to solve a lot of common challenges in a church when you're trying to do streaming and recording. But first, I'll lay a bit of the land of what we actually see people doing quite often, and where a lot of people start. In that most people that I've met seem to start using a streaming software approach, where they have a computer and they figure out how to get their sources in the room into that computer. So they've got some capture cards and a mixer, and they're bringing all those things into a laptop, and they're running OBS or vmix, and then they're live streaming that to their CDN. And honestly, this is a very viable solution, and I wouldn't discourage anybody from using this, but there are some opportunities beyond this, right? So someone's asking, maybe make your camera screen the large one when showing gear live. Good tip, Chris. I'll have to call for the spotlight help on that, I think. Or I'll stop sharing for that moment. Thanks. So in a streaming-based software setup, it's really great for doing streaming, but what we've seen is it's hard to hand this off to somebody else, because you're dealing with, first of all, a computer that's doing a lot of different things. So it's a bit complicated, and there's a bit more room for error. And it's just tricky to teach somebody how to use OBS. It's tricky to teach somebody how to use vmix. So that's, again, we'll get into that. And the scale of these kinds of setups, they can kind of get a little out of hand. So this is an image. I just pulled this from the internet like a couple of days ago when I was thinking about this presentation. When you start building out these setups, as everybody knows, you start adding on and building more things into them. They can become pretty complex pretty quickly. So we'll focus today on how to keep that setup minimal, so that it is easy to use, as I've been professing here all along. So that's the software setup that we usually see. And then on the other side of the picture is you have the hardware-based streaming setups. You have the one that I call the big and complicated. This is your broadcast setup. If you are the equivalent of a TV station, which I've seen many times in churches, and they're incredibly powerful. And this is, again, I'm not trying to throw shade on this setup. It's an incredible way to make video content. It's just clearly at a class and a level that is beyond an amateur or a volunteer in any way. A lot of buttons, a lot of screens, a lot of technology. So it's not easy to use. It's expensive and difficult to manage, but you're going to get a great looking broadcast. So no shame in that approach at all. The one that we're going to talk about today is this volunteer-friendly one. So it's going to be easy to use. You can teach somebody else to use it. It's going to be easy to manage. So if you're the IT person or the technical person at your church, you probably want something that you can troubleshoot for somebody else. And then, of course, budget is going to become a conversation here. And we'll talk about that when we get into our discussion around the different kinds of models that we have available. So a working diagram of what we might see in a church is where you would have your sources. So in this case, on this diagram, I have two cameras. One of them's an SRT camera, one's an SDI, and I have a computer. Maybe that's bringing in lyrics or presentation content. You can connect. One of the neat things about these devices is that you can connect a microphone directly to them, which can make this really an all-in-one solution, where you don't need a computer to work with this. You don't necessarily need a mixer to it. You can get away with cameras, microphone, and this, and that's your whole setup. That's a pretty bare bones setup compared to any other setup you're going to figure out. And it's limited. Like, you cannot do everything that you can do on those big broadcast setup, but it's very, very capable. And I'll tell you why. So to start with, when you're using a hardware encoder like this, you get a lot of reliability that you don't always get with a software-based setup, just because there's a lot fewer points of failure. And you have a device that is designed to do only streaming and recording of video. Whereas if you have a computer-based setup, that computer can be doing a million different processes. So I'm sure anybody who's done this kind of workflow knows, like, a million things can happen. So to try to mitigate some of that risk, hardware-based approach, some people appreciate that. And of course, from Epifan, we always advocate for that because we see the benefit there. So in addition to this device being, you're connecting all of your inputs to it, you can do all of your recording on this device. So you'd be recording directly to either the SD card on it or the hard drive that you can put in the bottom of it. And you're doing switching. So for example, I can have a multi-camera setup and switch from camera A to camera B, and I can make nice, beautiful layouts as well. And I can take you into the web UI and show you a little bit about what this looks like in a few minutes. But you can also push video to the local part of your broadcast. So for example, if you have a confidence monitor or a display in the lobby of your church, you can use this to push that broadcast into that confidence monitor, what we call sometimes an overflow room, where you just have a display somewhere and you need people to watch the broadcast that are not in that room. So a bit of a local switcher. And then you can live stream to however many places you want. So if you're live streaming to YouTube and you want to go to Facebook at the same time, or you have Streaming Church or any other, bespoke streaming service, you can do a live stream to all of those at the same time from a single device. There's a lot of ways to do multi-streaming, but this would be a simple way to do that. I see a question here. Does this record the program view or all of the video inputs? The answer is yes, meaning you can record a program plus the inputs. So if, like Emmanuel is asking, if you want to do post-production on this video content, like maybe you just want to record a lot of raw video and then use that later and go do Opus clips and any other thing to make a lot of footage out of it, you could record everything here. And the recording thing is funny. We always talk about this as a streaming device, and it is, but people, when you don't have great recording that's happening all the time, it's death, because inevitably things go wrong with streaming, and recording will save everything for you. So we talk a lot about recording here. I was saying, volunteer friendly a lot here today. And one of the ways to make this volunteer friendly would be to schedule this device to do your streaming and recording. And we offer scheduling through our cloud service. We have a cloud service called FFN Edge, and you can see in this image here, and I'll show you in a minute, you can come in here and queue this device up and say, start recording on Sunday at 10 o'clock and stop at 11. Same thing goes for streaming. So that is a really helpful feature. And it also means that, the people in the room, they don't have to sit there and be as nervous because they know that you've kind of they've got your support from remotely. So that's the scheduling. I see a couple of questions coming in here. Is the analog input mono or stereo line input? Yeah, again, the answer is yes. You have a lot of options on how you configure this. You have you have a dual mono input if you want, or you can line them up to be a stereo input. And it has phantom power, so you can plug a direct mic in and get your mic level support as well. What's the performance of this Pearl in warm environments, but without an air conditioner? I mean, it's hard to say that exactly, Sergio, but I can tell you just in general, these devices are tanks and they're incredibly reliable. So people who buy these things, they buy them because they work in extreme environments. Of course, you'd have to test it if you're in Barbados and you're in the basement of a church and it's really hot. It's going to be another story, but typically they tend to work pretty well. But I understand, like, heat dissipation is always a concern. I see a comment from Bethel. That's great. Okay, that's good. That's nice to see all these questions coming in. So please don't be shy about asking those questions. I can cater the presentation accordingly. So now I want to talk a little bit about the headaches that we see in live streaming spaces and how we mitigate them. I say we as in we can solve them all. We can't solve them all, but we can help you mitigate some of them. So the first one and the most obvious one is networking. You're going to, I'm sure, experience challenges with a network because networks are inherently challenging. And so some of the tips that I would always give is use a dedicated network when you can, which means you're not sharing that same network with all your constituents who are coming in and using Wi-Fi. So aim for that in any installation. Use wired Ethernet. So again, on this device here, we have Ethernet and we do not have Wi-Fi. And that is by design because we do not want you to trust Wi-Fi for your streaming. It's going to work for you some of the time if you use Wi-Fi, but if it doesn't work, it's going to make you crazy. So I'd always suggest, no matter what setup you're using, try to find wired Ethernet. And then lastly, just test. I know that's kind of rote advice to say test, but with networking, it's inherently true. We did a stream from this office 2 days ago to a new platform. We were streaming to Vimeo. No, not Vimeo, to Wistia. And of course, we hadn't done it before. And then we had a failure with the platform. So test your platforms too. That's another big streaming headache, is the platform side of things. Like, for example, let me throw some shade on our friends over at LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great platform, but trying to live stream to that platform is really tricky. Like, there's a lot of gotchas there and it can go sideways. So my list of streaming headaches, which I kind of have on the background here, is your networking, your streaming platforms, your operators. Make sure that they are set up for successes as much as possible. Like, give them simple controls, give them a stream deck. Don't give them the entire backend to operate. And then your audio video inputs. This one, really, I just want to talk about audio. So with our devices, we like to put XLR inputs on them. And we learned this the hard way, in that we put out devices that have just 3.5 millimeter inputs on them. And they're just not nearly as reliable as using a beautiful XLR input. So this is something you kind of learn after failing with other stuff, unfortunately. But I would highly advise, no matter what setup you're using, try to use good XLR inputs when it comes to audio. You'll appreciate it later. See a couple of comments on here. Thank you for putting the operating temperature in here from 0 to 40 degrees, which is great. And can it be set with Wi-Fi? Eric is asking. That's a legit use case, Eric, but in this case, you cannot set our devices up with Wi-Fi. But there's a lot of easy ways to set up. So maybe I can actually show you some of those ways. So the least obvious way, but kind of the most interesting way, is using Epiphan Edge. So this is a cloud-based access, where once you log into cloud, you can see all of your devices. And what I thought I'd do is I'm going to show you. So I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. I'm going to share my browser here, where I have Epiphan Edge open. And what you're seeing here is a list of all the devices that I have in this office. So we have a lab kind of down the hall here, and we put in all these devices with some kind of fake sources in them just for demonstration purposes. But I can just quickly get into all of them here. I've got studios, I've got podcasters, and I've got one here that I called a church. What did I call it? The Church of Epiphan. So let's take a look at this device here. And so imagine you're at home. You're not at the Sunday sermon. You can still see how this device is doing. You can also see, oh, it's not streaming. Like, let's say you're supposed to be streaming this program feed out to YouTube. Well, you can come in here and just start that up. So you can click it, start streaming, and away you go. That's pretty powerful as a remote person to support other people on your team. If you want to be able to come in here and support them, this is really critical. And you can come in here and record. So that's the most basic function in terms of like a remote support side of things. But you can also go a lot deeper. So in this case, I want to open the switcher and I want to see what my layouts look like and actually do live switching. So this is me doing live switching remotely. Even though this is technically down the hall, I'm going through the internet to access this device. And I can do a switch. I'm going to switch from my camera feed to my picture-in-picture feed, or I'm going to switch to this stage cam and back. And so this is all live switching happening on this device, but through the cloud. Now, obviously, many of you do not need to use the cloud all the time, but you get all the same workflow if you're working locally, where you would get to see all of your switching here on this device. And if you want to see the back end of your device, you can go in and see that as well through this kind of login. But you can see all of your inputs here. In this case, I don't actually have any real inputs connected, which is why it says no signals. And I can see events here as well and create events. That's where I was talking about. If I want to create a schedule to start and stop my streams, you can do all of that here. And I can see my recordings too. So if you're recording files, you can have those uploaded here too. So this is just a glimpse into what it's like to manage a Perl system. And I'm doing it remotely, but all the same principles apply on a local side as well. So just got to keep an eye on this chat here. Okay, I see, Michael. Can you adjust audio video sync? Sometimes our video is ahead. Yes, you can adjust your AV sync. So I can show you real quick. You can add, especially on your audio side, you can add an audio delay here, and that usually resolves it. Like I find on the video side, we don't really have any audio sync issues when it comes to video coming directly into our units. But what I would do is do an SRT stream into our device, and then through an SRT stream, you can adjust the delay. So it's kind of a complicated answer, but you can do it. Is the software compatible with Mac OS? I mean, I won't give up trying to persuade them to switch, but we have bigger problems at the moment. Our software is you just need a web browser. So you don't have to install any software to run it. Everything runs off the device itself. So that's the beauty of hardware. There's no software required, essentially. What's the performance in warm environments? We got that. Okay. The CPU speed. What is the CPU speed? Does it have some network bonding feature? The CPU speed is kind of irrelevant here. It's just I'll talk a little bit about the capabilities of it, about how much performance you get it when I do a little comparison between different models in a minute. And does this any of your devices? Well, we don't do any network bonding here. We leave that to some other companies that do a great job, and I'm sure some of them are here at this broadcast too. Can the software delay the streaming output to minimize streaming interruptions? You know what? That's a question from Simon. And now we're talking about SRT in that case. And SRT that is a protocol for streaming, and it will allow you to play with that latency. And what we're seeing is certain platforms like YouTube, for example, we're talking to them about, they're going to allow you to accept an SRT stream. And so if you're the destination you're trying to stream to, if they let you bring in an SRT stream, then yes, you can delay the streaming output to minimize the interruptions and get better recovery of those packets. Anyway, that'll be a long way. If you want to talk about SRT, I'll be happy to talk about that all day. Michael's saying, are you talking about caches? It's not, it's kind of like a cache in a way, but it's all contained within the streaming protocol itself and how much buffering you're kind of sending. Oh, it's really nice here. Now the sun is just like hitting me right in the face, but it feels good on a Friday afternoon. Okay, so I'll go back to this deck here just to keep me on track. We talked a little bit about Edge here and how it can help on the remote management side. And yeah, that's kind of our sell in a nutshell for people looking at devices for streaming and recording. If you need a one-button solution for streaming and recording, we're going to help you there. If you want to make sure that it works with whatever you have today, that's also something you're going to like. So as I talked about, you can connect SDI into this. You can connect HDMI signals. You want to bring in USB cameras, you can bring them in. So what we find is people use these devices for a decade or more because they're kind of utilitarian. People call them Swiss Army knives. And they're durable as hell. So I encourage you to put them through their paces, try one out and see what you think. Now I can tell you a little bit about the models and the costs as well, because I know that's going to come up for sure. So I have a few more pictures. So this is a Pearl Nano. I'll stop my screen just so you can see that for a second. Thank you for that tip earlier. This is the smallest device, Pearl Nano. You get basic controls on the front here for streaming and recording. You can connect all of your sources on the back, but this is basically your single channel device. If you already have a mixing station, maybe you have a great broadcast setup, all right, but the streaming side is not so strong because that's what we see. Like maybe you have a new tech system. Well, you might find it's great at the broadcast side, but not so strong at the streaming side. So you can tack one of these onto the end of that and just use it as your streamer. And this, by the way, this costs, I think it's a little under $2,000. So that's the kind of entry level for our platform. And I know that's more expensive than an OBS-based workflow, but you don't need a computer to run this thing. So there is some cost savings on the other hand. Okay. Nice. I'm just reading the chat here about a 60 degrees one day, snow, and the next day in Ohio. It sounds a bit like Canada, John. So yeah, we deal with the same fluctuation in weather. Okay, and then the other models, I'll just quickly run through those. So I've been showing off this model in the middle, which is called Pro Mini here. That is 3 channels. So in which case you might want to capture, 2 cameras and a presentation system or a laptop of some kind. And then you get, and that's a 3,700, I think. And then the Pearl 2 at the top of the line here is around $8,000. And that is 6 encoded channels. You can get 4K out of this. You can record all of those 6 channels. You can stream all of those 6 channels. So it is a beast. It is a workhorse. And we do see some churches putting them in place. And I think that's what I'll show you some real use cases now, some churches who are actually using our equipment. Because I see we only have a couple minutes left. Okay, so this is a friend of ours. His company is called Social 180. His name's John Porterfield. And you can see here he sells streaming services and production services. But he deploys our devices in a lot of churches because he knows that they're going to have success with it. So, for example, this is one here. Is that muted? Yeah. Jason Powell, private video. How'd that happen? Okay. It was not private when I tried it a minute ago. Let's try this again. Oh, okay. Just to give you a sense of what a broadcast coming out of an FFN might look like. So, you can bring in graphics and do all of this stuff, but, I guess it's not all that revolutionary compared to what you're used to from any streaming service, but it's a multi-camera production. And these folks, what's interesting about this is not so much the outcome here, because this looks fairly familiar, I'm sure, to anybody who's watched a church stream, is that he manages all of these streams from his house, very far away from this church. So he just dials in on Sunday and helps them out remotely. So if you're somebody who sets other people up for success in houses of worship, FFN is a really useful tool in that kind of workflow, because you have all of that remote access. Here's another one of his the people he works with. They're called the Kindred Church of Anaheim Hills. Again, straightforward broadcast, beautiful blue background. It's got some AI tracking cameras in this install, which we're starting to see more and more of, not just in the church business, but in our other customers as well. So I'm sure you guys are seeing that out there too. So I just thought I'd share a couple of real life examples here. And maybe I'll stop sharing and I'll go back to the questions now and see how we're doing. So does it support UVC input through USB? Yes, it depends on which model. So some of the models do, William. The one I've been showcasing for most of today, the Pearl Mini, this does support USB input. Pearl 2 is more like $8,000. And thank you, Roy, who's advocating for it since 2019. Rock solid. Glad to hear. And I see another question from Olawasulu. Can you record 4K but stream in 1080? Yes, that's an interesting workflow. We have a lot of people who want to record in a higher resolution or even just different footage than they want to stream out at. So we'll have people who have one channel set up to stream at maybe 720 or 1080, and then another channel set up to record in 4K. So that's a very common workflow, and it's kind of smart because then you get this nice, beautiful high res. You can also change the bandwidth, not just the resolution, but you can stream out at 2.5 megabits per second if you have a limited bandwidth, and record at 20 megabits per second. So it's the kind of flexible nature of these devices. You really can set them up to do whatever you want. I got the message here. We've got 2 minutes to the top of the hour, which is great. So I've just got to sit here for questions if anybody has them. I see another comment from Scott saying the 2 FFN units you've used at the Presbyterian Church and a Jewish temple both seem to work really reliably. That's great. We get questions from some Jewish temples from looking to figure out how to automate these devices so that they're not working on certain days. So that's always an interesting technical challenge. But yeah, our worship customers are always seem to be pretty happy once they get them installed. And I have a question for the group here. If anybody has any recommendations for events where you want to see FFN show up at, this is an industry that we would like to spend a bit more time with. So please invite us, send me a note. I'm sure my contacts will be shared out as part of this. And if you have any other questions about the show, send me a note. I'd like to learn more about the industry and spend more time with all of you. So yeah, I'll call it there, Tess. If you want to jump back in, William Mullen, are we going to be at NAB in Las Vegas? Yes, William's telling me how to do my job properly here. I should be promoting where we're going to be next. We will be at NAB in Las Vegas. If any of you are going to be there, please come say hi. Daystar, do we have any presence in Nigeria? I don't know what our reseller, who our reseller is in Nigeria, but I'm sure we do, Daystar. I'll try to get your name here, and I'll follow up with you with a place that you can buy from.
All right. Thank you so much, George. Really appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks,
Please, if you have
Tess.
time, join the networking room for further Q&A.
On my way.
So go back
Yeah.
to the lobby and then enter the networking room if you have time. So thank
Okay.
you. Okay, we are on to our last presentation before our giveaway. We are giving away a PTZOptics Move SE to one lucky winner today. I will add in the chat the link to that because there is just a little bit more time to sign up for that. Next up, we have our very own Stephen Haywood presenting on churches in the virtual world. So take it away, Stephen.
Hey, thanks, guys. My name is Stephen Haywood. I am the Strategic Partnership Manager here at PTZOptics. I wear a lot of different hats here. I work with a lot of the different departments, whether it be on broadcast projects or new products with the product team. But I do a lot of things. And one of the things I'm most excited about is where we're headed in history. No, I'm not going to give you a history lesson today, although that would be kind of fun. I think a lot of things have changed since the pandemic. Remote work has become more accessible. We have a lot more people engaging in remote video production, and there's a lot of tools out there making it easier. In fact, one of the tools is one by our very own PTZOptics called Hive. Now, I know you've seen a lot of different things and heard a lot of different things about Hive, but this is a tool that I think houses of worship could extremely benefit from because it is something that allows you, if you have to travel for your job, if you have to not attend your house of worship because you're not feeling well. I have a lot of buddies who go to different houses of worship just to set up their audio because they don't have anybody technical on staff. And so they're really at the mercy of the equipment or at the manufacturers. And if the manufacturer's not open for some reason, or they can't get a hold of the manufacturer, they're pretty much dead in the water. And you know, Sunday mornings, there's always something going on. It's a very stressful time for the media production team. And that's why I thought, talking about what I'm going to discuss here today, the church in a virtual world, I think that lends to a lot of where we're at right now. And there's two tools that I really want to talk about today. And one of them is our very own Hive. Now, Hive is going to be coming out very, very shortly. And I know a lot of you guys have been very, very excited about this product coming to market. And I know it is right around the corner. We've been baking in the features and trying to get it just right so that you can use it for your workflow. So, without further ado, I want to take you on the journey of our setup at our church and let you see how we're looking at using Hive and also see how easy it is for me to access it here from my studio. Take a look. So for church in the virtual world, one of the first things I want to talk to you about is obviously our product called Hive. Now, Hive will enable you to add multiple PTZ cameras to your Hive to do a live production remotely. Well, in my case, we have the church. We have what you're seeing now is the camera at the church. I'm actually in my studio at home, and I am able to remotely control these cameras from inside the church. Now, we're still working on our network to make it a little bit more robust outside of the church walls. But I added a camera just for the sake of this demonstration. So having the ability to control the camera inside of Hive is one of the prime features that I enjoy doing. So you can see here, I'm moving the camera around. This is live at the church, and then I can create a preset and basically set it inside Hive. So that's the preset that I want. Let me just move this over. And we can add another preset here just by clicking on it. Now, this isn't meant to be a tutorial, and I'm not going to go through and step by step. And our marketing team has done a wonderful job of creating tutorials, and we'll be creating this for our launch, which is going to be very shortly. Our team is working very hard on getting this product out the door, and I'm pretty excited about it. So currently I have the camera added. As you can see, it's focusing, it's dark in the sanctuary, but by just simply clicking the plus sign here, you can go through and find all the cameras that are on that network, and I could literally add it to this production, go through and select what the camera is, where it's located based on IP address. I can even go in and add an audio source. Now, because I'm not at the church here, adding the audio, it's going to be based off of, what I'm able to pull in here locally on the computer. So I don't have, I have my capture card on the Mac Pro. I don't have any, we do everything via Dante, so that's currently not in here, which controlling the audio I will get to in the next part of this later on. But you could set it up if you want a quad view, if we had 4 cameras and whatnot, and you can even have tracking. Fast frame is what we're calling it. You can click on it, and then the camera will basically move to that location based on, the fast frame or cineframe or all different kinds of things. You can go to, it's focusing in and out. You have all these different options up here. You can even start recording. So if we click the gear, again, it's going to ask you, this is the camera. Obviously, it's the only one that I have here. It's going to ask you which one that you want to select to record. The output, you could start an NDI output, so then it shows up in a video switcher. So if I'm remote, I can switch the production and feed it into a vmix, wirecast, TriCaster, OBS in my studio at graphics and send it out to destinations and simply switch within Hive by just clicking on the different camera, and it will switch my output, which is kind of cool. Or I can just simply select a specific camera that I want as the output. So if I want to output all 4 cameras via NDI, they'll show up in my switcher as 4 separate sources that I can then control and switch within my local switching software, whatever that might be. So it's very, very versatile. On the right-hand side here, you'll see we've got some different grids here that you can put up. I don't necessarily use the grids unless I'm setting up like lower thirds and things like that. But since that's not based in Hive right now, it's not really something that we need to add. And the auto tracking, you can turn that on and off. Obviously, we're using a Move 4K, so there's a lot of composition options for this. There's a lot of different features, if you will, that you can add to it, which is really, really cool. And you can set up different groups and different preset groups that you want, depending on how you want to have it set up. And then over here, it's like some of our basic controls that we have, even within the PTZOptics cameras. You got your focus mode that you can choose auto or manual. Just for this, I'm just going to leave it alone. We're not going to mess with it too much. Again, this is not a tutorial. This is just basically to show you what this is capable of doing. Obviously, we are using the cloud share mode, so we're able to do this over the web and not just on the local network. And then the share, I can share it to other people out there, other people from my team at the church that want to get involved and help with the production. And there's also image control over here. You can change everything here from within the camera. One of the things that I thought is really cool with this is it tells you what the bit rate. Now, because there's no movement, there's nothing going on, I have it set to the lowest settings because nobody's at the church right now, and I have no way of adjusting it if need be, because unless I remote it into the system. But again, that takes resources. So I just set it to the lowest video settings as possible, just to ensure that it didn't bog our network. Again, we're in the process of replacing some network switches, as we had a couple of them go bad, and it's going to be more streamlined for NDI, and we just got our security system in as well, and so we're just trying to make it a little bit more robust. And so for the time of this presentation, we didn't have it fixed, so just bear with us. That's why it says 360p. Again, I set it for its lowest possible resolution that I could. So it's really cool. You got your settings here as well. Your I guess you could call it messages if you want what it's telling you. So yeah, this is simple. I have a different Hive account for my work, and then I have this one for the church, and I'm able to come in here. I've already gotten it on Hive. That's connected with the bridge, the Hive bridge over at the church. So I literally just log into the back end, and boom, I'm off and running. I can start controlling and doing anything I want, and recording, outputting via NDI. It's really robust. So yeah, I hope you guys check this out. This should be launching hopefully in the next couple of months. If you haven't and you want to read more about it, you can go to hive.ptzoptics.com. We do have a beta, and yeah, if you guys enjoy it, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. I love it when tools get easier and easier to use as time goes on. It just makes life so much simpler. So as you can see, with Hive, it gives us a lot of opportunity and versatility. I travel a lot sometimes in the summer where I'm going to different conventions for my brand that I have on the side. And a lot of times I can't be there. So in hindsight, had I had this years past, I would have been in good shape. But going forward, this is something that I can remote in with my laptop and be able to gain access to help out one of the techs that are there at the church. And it's also a good way, as my partner in crime there at the church, the other tech guy, he was like, this is a great opportunity to be able to go through and set presets without actually having to spend Sunday morning doing it, especially if they know there's going to be a baptism, if there's going to be something special like a baby dedication. Sometimes folks even renew their wedding vows Sunday mornings. I mean, anything can happen. So you want those perfect shots. You want to be able to get them together, and Hive really brings that together. I'm so excited, and I can't wait for that to launch, because there's constantly even new features in the works that are going to be ready for this in the future that I think everybody's going to love. Now, a lot of you might be sitting there and you're going, hey, this is great. This is awesome. You can bring audio into Hive. This is great. But what if you want some more minute control? What if you want some more control that Hive really doesn't give you at this present moment? Well, I've got a solution for you. This is another product that we are proud to partner with to help promote and spread the word about this product. And it's originally designed by a company called Boxcast. Boxcast put together this application called Remote Mix. Well, I'm not going to just sit here and babble about it. Let me show you. Okay, well, you can't control video without controlling audio, and you have to be able to see things and do things in real time. And what you're looking at right now is this is the back end of Boxcast, which you'll soon be able to get access to from remotemix.com. But remotemix.com is a brand in itself, but currently with Boxcast, you can, if you have one of their Sparks, you can gain access to Remote Mix. Now, they are bringing out a standalone application that'll work for Mac or PC, and you install that on your computer, and you can then utilize Remote Mix free of charge. From what they're telling me, it's free of charge. You don't need the Spark box. It's super simple to set up. In fact, we did it in like 5 minutes. So if you click this little panel right next to Boxcast, you'll see it says Remote Mix. So we're going to click on that. It takes us immediately to the Remote Mix interface. Now, I've already connected my mixer, but I'll just kind of show you really quick. If you click Create Mix, right, you could select the Boxcast Spark that's online, or if you had the software. Well, obviously it wants me to disconnect from the mixer, and then you would select what mixer brand, and it gives you like a picture and everything. And once you're done with that, it literally comes to this screen and you say connect, and it asks you for a pin. You put in your pin, and instantly you're taken right to the interface of the X32, which is what we use at the church, right? And so currently at the church, nobody's there. But I had asked our sound guy, I asked him, I said, hey, can you just leave some music playing on one of the auxes so I can show the folks when I'm demonstrating this, some audio movement. So you can see on your X32, it has all the names of everybody that plays an instrument, sings, or whatever it is. You can rename them in here. You can scroll to the left or scroll to the right. You've got your encoder volume levels, and then also main as well. The cool thing with this is they give you the ability to add different types of mixes besides what the Behringer X32 allows. I'm not going to get into all that. They're going to have plenty of videos to show you that. But what I want to show you is, so like on the X32, I can select between input 1 through 16, which you're seeing. I can go inputs 7 through 32, which is all my drums and percussion microphones that we have, and even the handheld microphone. And then I can go to the aux. The aux is what we're doing the computer left and right. So literally I can pull the volume up and you can see it goes up. I can pull it down. If somebody was actually at the church, they'd be seeing the faders move right now in real time. And then you also have your FX returns as well. So you can go through and choose any of the mixes that are here, the matrix that are here. You can choose, right now it's on our percussion player. I could go to main and you can see what the mixes are for main, for the target. You could set it for ambience if you want ambience, whatever you want to do. There's so many different. Here's like the send to web. This is our send to web setting where we can adjust things for the interwebs. And then up here you have your channels, your buses. Here's all like your mix buses, and then your virtual groups. These are the virtual groups that, again, like I said, virtual mix offers, right? So you can create your own virtual mix of who you want in a certain group and color code it and everything like that. Now, I haven't done any of that yet. I haven't really had a need to do that yet, but you can absolutely do that. And then the mains, if you just want to see the mains. So one of the cool things that they also offer is a feature to lock people out, right? I know it sounds bad, but to lock somebody out so that they only have access to certain things. Like you don't want them to mess up your EQing, or, hey, you don't want them messing with your, monitors or anything like that and really making the musicians upset. You can set up those groups and then only give access to an individual what those groups have in them. So something else that they've added here is, okay, this is great. Okay, I can mix virtually, but I can't see if somebody's telling me that's too loud or it's not loud enough. Well, if you look up here on the top left corner, you can actually have a video preview. And as you can see, this is the sanctuary. Nobody's there right now. But what we're doing is we're feeding it. So in our Spark, our Boxcast Spark, we actually have the TriCaster hooked up because it's an SDI unit. They don't do NDI currently. And it's program out. So whatever camera we switch to, we can see it right here in preview in 0 to 10 milliseconds latency. It might even be less than that. You could easily be switching the cameras, and you could have one of the singers just point to their ear and then point up on, and then make a strumming motion on the guitar. And then you, as the virtual sound guy, you can go in and adjust the guitar to fit those levels. Well, that's great. I can see them, but how do I hear them? So virtual mix also gives you the ability, the remote mix gives you the ability to, you guessed it right, you can listen to the audio. If we had audio going out the mains, we could listen to it right now in real time. Just by clicking on this, you adjust the volume. And obviously, if there was audio coming out when you click on this, it mutes it or unmutes it, and then you would see this going out. But we don't have anything going out the mains right now because they have prayer on Wednesday night, and nobody there on Wednesday nights knows how to work the soundboard. So we don't want to mess them up for prayer. So, but you would literally be able to sit there and communicate with them. Basically, you're hearing the sound in real time while actually seeing the visual of the service and be there from anywhere in the world. Now, you can access this on an iPad. You can keep it in a browser like I'm doing here. however you want to do it, but you have it right here at your fingertips. And I know there's going to be more things coming out in the future for remote mix. They will also be adding other cool features that might be something that they put a price tag on. I don't know yet, but between Hive and remote mix, I think you really have everything covered that you would need for doing this remotely, and not just church services, anything. If you wanted to open up a business for somebody that is helping a church that really doesn't have a dedicated sound team or somebody that is very knowledgeable, maybe you just have to set it up and somebody just needs to be able to mute and unmute. So the next question that's going to be asked, this is great, Steve, it works for the X32, but what about other mixers? They have it locked down to just about every digital mixer out there will work. So it's not just locked to the Behringer X32. So if you have a digital mixer made within the last couple of years, it should work for you. And they're working on adding more and more mixers to the arsenal. There you have it, guys. Are you ready for the virtual world? Is your church ready for the virtual world? I hope you found this presentation enlightening, but also I hope you found it entertaining a little bit, but also informational. I think there's a lot of things that can be done to improve everything for virtual control. And these two tools are one of the examples that are out there to help you get the job done. Log Me In, TeamViewer, the days of remoting in the computers. With Hive and Remote Mix, it makes life so much easier. All right, we're going to send it back to the studio, to the folks at the headquarters of Worship Summit Live. Talk to you guys later. I'll be in the breakout room.
All right. Thank you so much, Stephen, for that wonderful presentation. That does conclude our presentations for the day. We hope that you found everything that we shared today valuable for your house of worship with video production and live streaming. All right. I think it's time for us to do the giveaway. You guys ready? I am. So we'll give you one more chance if we could cue the QR code to enter the giveaway. So I'll just give it like one more minute and we will draw one lucky winner. I'm so excited. So we're giving away a PTZOptics Move SE pan tilt zoom camera today. Hopefully you can use it for your house of worship. All righty. Let's go ahead into Gleam. And I will do the giveaway drawing. We still have a good amount of people here in the chat, I see. All right, I'm picking a winner. And I will just keep picking winners until we find somebody that is physically here. Well, virtually here. Garrett Shelley, are you here? I will put your name in the chat. Let's see if Garrett is here. I don't see Garrett in the participants in Zoom. All right, I'm going to re-pick a winner. Okay, let's see. Dubek Trego. Are you here, Dubek? I don't see Dubek here either. All right, we're going to keep picking. Ben Mock. Ben Mock. Are you here? No, Ben Mock is not here. Oh boy, we'll see how long this takes. I will get a winner. I will get a winner. Let us know by putting your name in the chat so it's easier for me to find you. Okay, Gleam is giving me an error. Let me refresh the page here. Susie O'Brien, are you here? Susie O'Brien, you are here. Yay! Congratulations, Susie. You just won a PTZOptics Move SE pan tilt zoom camera. It's a 1080p camera. I'm so excited for you. It does auto tracking. So if you have a pastor at a pulpit, you'll be able to track him or her. So I'm so excited for you, Susie. Congratulations. Let us know, how you're going to use the camera. Hopefully it could be for streaming worship services or Bible school or, whatever use you have. So let us know. I'm excited to see that. Congratulations. And that concludes our content for today. So thank you so much for joining the 2025 Q1 Worship Summit Live. We were so happy to have you here. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you're not watching on YouTube and you're in our Zoom event, head over to PTZOptics YouTube channel as soon as you can and give us that old like and subscribe. We appreciate you so much. The recording of this event will be available on YouTube, on PTZOptics YouTube channel. If you missed any of the sessions today, you can catch it on YouTube. And thank you so much for joining. I'm going to hop into the networking and breakout room and close that out. So that's it for our content today. Thank you so much for watching.